Hey everybody, today Rahdo Talks Show episode 65 of the podcast. And it's going to be more questions, it's going to be more answers, it's going to be more of what you come to know and love here at Rahdo Talks Through. We're all fine, thanks for asking me, Jen, Mom, the pups, and the chickens. There is one interesting thing of note I feel I should point out. You may or may not know, you probably do if you're listening to this podcast, that I was a video game designer for decades, literally. And what you may not have heard is I'm now a board game designer. Yes, even though I swore I would never do it, there is a game out there that has my name on it. Although, I should say, I am not the lead designer on the game in question, which is called Plunderous, and it's on Kickstarter right now, in case you'd like to learn a bit more about it. It's designed by a very close friend of mine, Andrew Scott. I've known him for a long time, and I've been working with him on Rahdo Runs Through. He's become my channel manager. Helping manage, Shay and Ryan and dealing with publishers and stuff like that. And at the same time that's going on, he's been working on this game Plunderous for half a decade now. Longer than I've known him, and I've known him for quite a while. And for the last 9 months or so, I have been working very closely with him on a co-op/solo expansion to turn Plunderous, which by default is a big, sprawling 4X style game in a steampunk pirate Caribbean. Turning it into a fully cooperative experience has been a blast. I've probably spent well over 200 hours on it now. We're still working out some of the kinks, and we haven't decided yet if they're going to list me as a co-designer or just a co-developer. He basically says it's up to me, and he wants me to actually play it with Jen before I'm willing to put my name on it, so we'll see. But I just wanted to point that out, folks. For people who've always said, why won't Rahdo design a game? Well, the closest you're ever going to get, it's on Kickstarter right now. It's called Plunderous, and now, with that shameful self-promotion out of the way, hold on and we'll be right back with some gaming questions and answers. Alrighty then, let's get to it. Bringing up Outlook here, and we're going to be starting off with Andrea, who has a very, very long email having to do with piracy in Tabletop Simulator. I remember when this came in, I kind of scanned it because Andrea, as I recall, very much disagrees with my attitude. And yes, Andrea says, I think that my position should be clarified since how it stands now may sound very outdated. And Andrea, I thank you for the very long and very thoughtful email. I think the problem here is you and I agree, because Andrea, I'm not going to read the whole thing, folks. It would probably take me at least 3 or 4 minutes to read this whole thing really in depth. But really, Andrea came away with 3 big points that he thinks means that he strongly disagrees with my stance. And for folks who didn't hear my previous podcast, when I must have talked about this, I seem to recall talking about it, I find the Tabletop Simulator to be a basically legitimized form of board game piracy because the developers do not require end users to get permission from publishers to upload works. And therefore, they are effectively committing copyright infringement and pirating games left, right, and center. And yes, I know a lot of publishers are totally fine with this, and I'm totally fine if they're totally fine, but I don't think it changed the fact that Tabletop Simulator should apply the same restrictions that Board Game Geek, the Tabletopia, that pretty much anybody who takes copyright law into effect does. And which is to say, people should be required to prove they have authorization from the publisher in question. And if they don't, they can go on ahead and upload a completely new module with a new title, new art, new graphic design, new text, new dialogue, rewritten rules, all of that, because otherwise they have stolen all of that from the publisher. And I think that's wrong. And here's the deal. I think Andrea agrees. To summarize, piracy only concerns artwork and graphic design. You're wrong, Andrea. It also concerns text. I can't just basically copy the entire text of a Harry Potter book and put it out, I would get nailed for copyright. And the same thing is true for board games. You have to if you want to put out an Arkham Horror clone that is exactly the same thing as Arkham Horror, yes, you can copy all the gameplay. You could even copy the numbers, but you would have to come up with completely new flavor text for every single card. You forgot that, but I'm sure you just weren't thinking of it. TTS should only ensure that the artwork is legitimate. So Andrea agrees that there is some burden that falls on TTS. Again, I would say the artwork, and the text. And if the editor-publisher does not invest in online gaming alternatives on TTS, they can't complain if fans make their mods. What about the morality of using free labor for advertising for their products? Smiley face. I'm going to disagree with you very strongly on that. That could be used for any kind of theft you want. If the stereo store won't just give me stereos for $5, I can't be blamed for stealing them. It's ridiculous. The editor/publisher is not required at all, has no moral obligation to pay somebody, to pay a fan to make a mod. If a fan wants to make a mod and they think they are being exploited and abused, they shouldn't do it. They should instead contact the publisher and say, hi, for a low $150 fee, I will make this mod for you. I know this because a lot of fans do this, and publishers do pay fans to make mods. And hey, what do you know? Killing two birds with one stone. Getting authorization approval, getting paid. That sounds really nice. That's the Tabletopia model, where publishers can pay to get the work done. So in every way, in this avenue, Tabletopia is superior, and Tabletop Simulator is still a piracy platform. And I think you don't understand. I agree with you. Yes, it's already been proven. There's been at least one lawsuit that establishes precedent that people can copy gameplay, that is not trademarkable, copyrightable, etc., etc. And that's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about the thousands and thousands of dollars the publisher put into the art and the writing and the editing and all of that the end user is literally stealing when they say, oh, I'm just going to make a mod of Dominion and I'm just going to put it up there. And they should thank me for it because I'm doing free advertising for them. To heck with that person. That is a very selfish and very entitled attitude that is illegal. And, Dominion has proved it. There were illegal Dominion mods put up that were taken down. Now, that's a shame. I think everything about that was handled, unfortunately, because the ultimate real official ones turned out to be nowhere near as good as the illegal pirated ones. But still, Rio Grande Games was well within their rights to shut down that stuff. Because it broke trademark, it broke copyright, etc., etc. So that's the thing. All of this comes back to Tabletopia. It is ridiculous. And I'm not going to say it's obscene, but it is wrong of the Tabletopia platform developers to not implement the simplest of gatekeeping mechanisms. It would be so easy for them to do, to say that this mod cannot be run on our software without this particular token having been flipped. This particular token can only be flipped by us after you show that you have authorization from Fantasy Flight or Cephalofair or a Pegasus or whoever, that you got authorization to be able to use all this stuff. And if you didn't, if you said, oh, I just really like Samurai from Reiner Kenichiya, I made all my own art and icons and everything from scratch, then you have to prove that you did not reuse anything, and then it can go up, no problem. And I've got no problem with that, as I said before. So I think, Andrea, we're pretty simpatico. Maybe I just didn't explain myself well. I think the biggest thing is you are missing the fact that text, dialogue, writing is just as protected as art. And also, the publisher is not an exploiter of free labor. Although, to be fair, you did put a smiley face on that, so I think maybe you're just being kind of cheeky. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your show. I'm sorry for the misspellings and grammatical. I'm not a native speaker. Andrea, you did a better job expressing yourself than I did, clearly. And no hard feelings. I do think this is a worthwhile topic, and I think it's ridiculous. Yes, it's part of my background because I came from the video game industry where piracy is so rampant and all that. And it's just ridiculous to me that the entire industry has effectively normalized the board game equivalent of Napster. And not that I'm saying Napster was handled very well by the music industry back in the day. They should have worked with the technology to find a way to integrate it. And that's what should happen with Tabletop Simulator. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Moving along to Marlon, who first of all has dog pictures apparently, but that'll have to wait because that's for Jen and she's not here yet. She'll be back later. So, right, first of all, did I ever ruin a demo copy of a game with a cup of tea spilling or otherwise? If so, what did I do with it? Do I contract the publisher or just went on making the video? No, I've certainly never had that problem. Or no, that's not true. I did on camera. If you go back and watch my preview run through, I did. It's a roll and write. I can't remember the name of it. It's a train game where it's basically kind of like Age of Steam, the roll and write. Oh, this is driving me nuts now. I can't remember the name of it, but you were able. That game came with pins, and you had dry erase markers for your own little board you're writing on. And during my filming, I actually just wrote on the main board, and it couldn't come off, and that was dumb. But yeah, that was actually while I was filming. But no, first of all, I don't really keep tea or drinks when I'm playing games. I do have sometimes a bottle of water, but it is nowhere near the table. It is off to the side because we've got shelves, and that's where that stays. Jen, she'll put stuff all over the place, and so far I don't think she's really spilled anything. But if it did happen, if we were playing and Jen spilled her tea all over everything, I imagine the run through would go on ahead afterwards, and I would just explain, sorry that these cards are a bit warped, folks. Please remember this was a prototype, and it's a prototype that Jen spilled tea all over, and that'd probably be how I would handle that. What was my closest table flipping moment or something that frustrated me to my wit's end? That would... I think the statute of limitations is passed. I can name names now. That would be a few years ago when I flew down to Florida because I spent the day at Dice Tower Central doing a couple of top 10s with Tom and doing a 12-hour marathon. It was like a 6-hour marathon or something like that. So I was in Florida for a couple of days and I stayed with Jason Levine, the gaming machine. He was a really gracious host. I met his parents who were visiting from New York. That was all good fun. And overall, I had a really great time. I really got to know Jason very well. We have kind of similar backgrounds in the technology industries or creative technology. And yeah, it was a great time. But I also went and played a game of Princess of Florence with his regular game group, which is not the Dice Tower game group. And yeah, Jason can be a bit of an antisocial monster. And he was very overbearing when we were playing because there were two of us, me and Kenny, if I recall correctly, also from Dice Tower. We neither of us had played it for the first time, and he started getting very frustrated that we were not playing the correct way. And, you know, he was getting really agitated, and I think everybody else at the table was just used to it, but I was not, and it just kept building and building, and eventually I got halfway through the game, and I just had to say, look, Jason, you have to stop this right now, because you are ruining this game. If you can't calm down, I'm just going to have to call it quits. And he did calm down after that. And the thing is, I think everybody else was so used to it, nobody thought twice about it. I was the odd one out. I was probably the only person who was bothered by it, but I was definitely bothered by it. And I basically shouted at him, which is something I've done very few times in my life. And so Jason Levine is on that very, very short list. But that's about it, I think. Let's see. As the board game goof master, what is the biggest offline goof I ever made? Oh man, I make so many. So many. I would say the most impactful one that pops into my head right off the bat is we played Le Havre wrong for a few years before I eventually found out the correct way to play. And the way we played was, Le Havre is a very weird game in the way it handles loans, because if you're low on cash, if you ever need to feed your people and you do not have enough money, you can take a loan of 10 francs, French francs if I recall correctly, to feed your people. And then you got to pay the loan. It's just standard loan stuff after that. The weird thing is, until you pay the loan off, you have to pay interest. And where our assumption was, hey, for every loan you take, you have to pay more interest. But that's not the case. I never knew. The rule was you could have 10 loans, but you only treat it as if it's only one loan. And so for the longest time, we played it the incorrect way where, no. Every loan, accrues interest that you have to pay at every round. And here's the deal. That makes Le Havre a much better game. When we eventually played it correctly, we discovered, oh, yeah, this is not good. This feels really weird and broken and we don't like it. So, but like I said, we played it wrong for a long time. And when I found out how to play it correctly, I got rid of the game because I thought it was actively worse. And I thought that was actually a design consideration that was really made for higher level player counts. And it was another example of 2-player gaming kind of gotten shortchanged. And so that would probably, there's probably a few others, but that's a big one. That's probably the biggest one. Alrighty. Let's see. Marlon continues. I am very prolific about the current state of rulebooks. I am being very prolific about the current state of rulebooks. Shouldn't I be pointing it out in every final thoughts as a topic? It's a very important part of getting a game and keeping people attracted to a beautiful hobby. So a great game with a bad rulebook is still very important to factor to know how you experience the game. You know what, Marlon? You are entirely right. And it really is something. I should just have a bullet list, quite frankly. And I go through here's how the rulebook was. Here's our experience, something like what Z Garcia does with his target system, something like that. Or, lists of pros and cons. But you're right, I probably should call it out every single time. I'm kind of resistant to it, though, because, one, I'm kind of weird. I think I would be a bad witness to bad rulebook implementation because the number of times that I've seen people complain vociferously about how terrible a rulebook is, and I go read and I say, what, this is perfectly fine. I totally understand. There's no ambiguity here whatsoever. This rulebook is A-okay. I don't understand why anybody has a problem with it. Now, that is in large part because I have literally read by now thousands and thousands of rulebooks. And so I think to a certain extent I can read between the lines. I think I can fill in blanks. I think I can use kind of institutionalized knowledge to understand things that, might not be as clear as they should be. And so if I were to include a segment about that, I don't think it would be valuable information. If Jen read all our rule books, because she's more of a normal person with a normal experience with them, or almost no experience really, that would make sense. But I fear I would be very misleading. When a rulebook is especially bad, so bad that it gets to me, I do tend to call that out. And if I don't call it out, that means I didn't have a problem with the rulebook. But it could very well be that you still would, which is why I don't feel, in much the same way I don't talk about the value proposition of a game, because, somebody else might be significantly more, going through more financial hardships than me, and so money means something different to me. Somebody might be crazy rich, and something that I say is too expensive, they say, no, that makes perfect sense. It's very subjective, and I have found reading rulebooks, even though it shouldn't be, is a fairly subjective art as well. So that's why I don't call it out. But you're right, I should, but I don't. Right. Next up, then we go on to the non-gaming stuff. So, we'll be back with you later, Marlon, when Jen gets here. Let's go on to Tyler, who noticed that Jaws of the Lion is our first Gloomhaven, is Tyler's first Gloomhaven experience, and he and his are loving it. After they complete Jaws of the Lion, should they play original Gloomhaven or should they jump into Frosthaven? Will Frosthaven have major improvements over original Gloomhaven that will make it worth skipping the original Gloomhaven? That's a good question. I can't imagine I'm the only person to have answered this, and you have to take with a grain of salt the fact that I have only played a couple, I don't remember, did I play 2 or 3 Frosthaven missions when I had the prototype for it? But based on that, my gut reaction would be no. I would say the ideal path is Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven, and then Frosthaven. And the reason for that is what little we saw of Frosthaven is really designed for Gloomhaven experts, for people who have really sunk their teeth in and are looking for something bigger and deeper and heavier. Now, by the time you finish Jaws of the Lion, I haven't done that. Maybe by the time, the 20-some missions that are in there, maybe by then you will be enough of a Gloomhaven expert that you could skip right over Gloomhaven and go to Frosthaven. And to be fair, Frosthaven offers a lot of really cool stuff. The biggest thing is it has this seasonal thing where time really matters and it changes the parameters of missions. So you take that into account. That's very cool. Frosthaven itself starts out as an outpost, not a full city, and players are responsible for contributing to how it advances and grows over time. That's very cool. And so I would say going from Jaws to Gloomhaven means you're not getting to the best of the best, but it also means you are spending more time getting Gloomhaven ground into your head before you dive into the deepest end of the pool. So I can't say definitively, but in my opinion, you'd be better off. And so really, I think when you get to the end of Jaws, you'll have to decide, do we feel like we know this like the back of our hands and we are ready to jump significantly into a higher complexity simulation? And if you are, probably go to Frost. Otherwise, spend some more happy time in Gloomhaven. Jen and I, we've played over 100 hours of Gloomhaven, and then when we got to the Frost team, we're like, whoa, this is pretty heavy compared to what we are used to. Yikes. These heroes are much tougher to do. And they were the intro heroes. So that's kind of why I would answer that question that way. Okay. Marco wonders, did I cover Rurik? If so, was I asked to cover Rurik? Dawn of Kiev, I believe, is the full title of it. If so, why did I say no? Area control, player interaction, etc. Rurik was a weird one. Yes, I was asked back in January or something, or maybe even last year, in maybe even 2018. And I did say no at the time. For the reason you said, it's a dude on a map. It's an area control game. It has a brilliant action selection system that I would love to experience someday in a Euro instead of in a war game. Well, it's not a war game, but it is definitely I'm kicking you out and all that work you did, I'm going to try and tear it down style game. And so that it was just a non-starter. The weird thing is, in spite of the fact that I said no, I think when it was on Kickstarter the first time, eventually I got sent a full copy of the game, the deluxe version with special stuff and whatnot. And I'm like, why did you send me this? And they're like, because we're going to be doing an expansion. I'm like, I already said no. You said no to the other publisher. We're a new publisher. And I'm like, well, if you'd asked me, I would have said no. And then I said, look, if you want, I'll send this stuff to Shay because he would love to cover it. It's perfect for him. And I don't know what happened there. I think they said no to Shay because at that time, back in April, Shay had only done 1 or 2 videos, so he wasn't a known quantity. And so that's why it fell between the cracks. It's a real shame because they should have said yes to Shay. It was absolutely insane. And as it is, I've got a full copy of the deluxe edition of the first printing of Rurik. And I'm never going to play it. So, sad story there of miscommunications and crossed wires and ships passing in the night. Okay, Darren. Darren wants to talk Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia again. I guess it must have been last night that this came out, or last episode this must came out. Because, of course, you guys are all hearing and then you're typing and then it's been a month and I forgot what I said last month. Alrighty. Darren would like for it to be on the up and up. Darren's is nowhere near as long an email as Andreas. All right, tabletop. All right, so Darren is pointing out that tabletop, its interface is slow and clunky. The controls are unintuitive. Maybe I'm the only one with this problem. For me, Tabletop Simulator is a superior program. I can't speak to that. You could be right. I've never used Tabletop Simulator. I won't give them my $10 to even try it, and because of my feelings about it. And it could very well be. I know when, the COVID started, there were a few channels that said, hey, now that you're playing games at home, which one should you do, Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia? And it seemed like all the channels said, you know what, they both have their glitches and their quirks, but they're both comparable. It's just a question of which games do you want access to and, what's your platform, because I think Tabletopia has higher system restrictions. I'm not quite sure about that, but I'm not. But it seemed like everybody was saying, that 6 of dozen. Was it? A dozen of one, half a dozen? No, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. They're pretty much the same. But you're saying that Tabletopia is slow and clunky, and maybe it is. I don't know. And so that's annoying. 2 programs do the exact same thing. Why does one work and the other one doesn't? Well, I'll tell you one reason, because Tabletopia has a much greater challenge. It was a much bigger and more elaborate production to put together because it runs in browsers. Because ostensibly it runs on any computer in the world if the computer is fast enough. It also runs on mobile devices, which I don't think Tabletop Simulator does. Maybe it does. At one point when I looked, it didn't. But it runs through a browser via not Java, but HTML5. And I think that puts a much bigger burden and onus on the developers because it's not a standalone thing. It has to work within other parameters. And so that makes things tougher for them. In my experience, it would be a tougher, more challenging program to put together. Right. And let's see here. If I hadn't... did you have anything else to say about that? Well, I guess that was your question. Why does one work and the other doesn't? That would be my guess. But you'd have to ask the fine folks at Tabletopia. I will certainly agree, because I have recently played some Tabletopia, to play Plunderous before I got my prototype in the mail, to play it with Andy. And I agree, there are definitely some clunky things that bothered me when I did a video for Tabletopia 3 or 4 years ago, and they still haven't fixed. The fact that you cannot, while you're holding the mouse button to hold something in your hand, you have to use WASD to slowly pan the camera around, that's ridiculous. While you're holding the mouse button, because you're holding something in your hand, you can't tap the space bar to get a zoom in on what you're holding. There are a handful of really dumb, just almost incomplete UI things. My suspicion is, probably true, but just different ones for Tabletop Simulator. And chances are you are used to Tabletop Simulator and its shortcomings, and therefore you find Tabletopia worse. Whereas if you had spent all your time in Tabletopia and you got used to the shortcomings of its interface, and then went to Tabletopia, you're like, why does Tabletop Simulator not do all these things? That would be my guess, but I don't know because I've only got experience with one. Continuing on, you said that I say that Space Hulk Death Angel is in a game I objectively should not like. I agree, but I like it anyway. Is there a game that is the opposite of that? A game that objectively does everything right, has all the things I like in a game, does them very well, but I don't like for whatever reason? Oh, you're sure, there's lots of games like that. The one that immediately pops to mind, I do not remember the name of it. I want to say it's like Beer Kingdom? Beer something or other. Okay, now I'm going to have to go and look at it. I might as well look at the other game that I mentioned. I wasn't going to start looking up stuff, but let's go to Board Game Geek. If I can find a tab for it, and then wait for it to open up. And Beer Empire, maybe? Beer Empire? Is that it? Yeah, I think Beer Empire is a brilliant Agricola-esque worker placement style game. Nope, Beer Empire is a different one. Dang it. How many? Yeah, that one was fine. That was a nice one too. All right, let's go to the food and drink beer list on Board Game Geek. Brewcrafters. Brewcrafters is an excellent harvest resources, convert them into points by making thing game. Very Agricola-y, but it's all about a modern day brewery that you're running. And both Jen and I was like, wow, this is really good. I never want to play it again. Why? Because of the theme. I have zero interest in beer. And beer is just a huge turnoff to me. Maybe it's because I had an alcoholic father growing up. Not that it led to any particular problems, but I don't drink beer. I never have. I think it's kind of gross and disgusting. I don't begrudge anybody who wants to drink beer. It smells bad. Otherwise, I don't mind being around people when they're drinking beer, but it's just, I don't want to play a game about making beer. So that's an example. And probably that would be the case most of the time. There's probably a few others. I mean, heck, if I went to Rahdo.com, which in case you don't know is a list where I list the reasons why I got rid of every game I've ever gotten rid of. If I just quickly scan, nope, I think I've got legitimate reasons for all of these. Although, not liking the theme, that's a legitimate reason. It really is. So no, I've got reasons. I pretty much always have reasons. Even if some people might think, well, that's a silly reason. Who cares if you're making beer? What was the other thing I was going to look up? Oh, wasn't it the train game? Yeah, it was the train roll and write game, which now everybody's going to think is Railroad Inc. But it's not. It's like rolling something or other. Rolling Thunder? Rolling Stock? Rolling America? Oh man, I still can't find it. It's too bad. It was really good too. But anyway, neither here nor there. Rolling Freight, maybe? Was that it? I will look at that, and if it's not that, then I will give up. And it was not Rolling Freight. All right. Anyway, though. So, yeah, it happens from time to time, sure. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but we'll go with it. Okay. Then we get to Dan, who is responding to something I said in episode 63, so 2 episodes ago. Dan agrees that no mechanism is inherently bad, but some implementations of mechanisms are inherently bad. For example, a combat mechanism with roll to resolve where you only hit on a 6 with a d6 with no reroll or modifiers is inherently bad. I disagree, Dan. I believe that could be implemented in a way that is inherently not bad. If you are trying to make a game where the thrust of the experience is intended to underline just how harrowing and what kind of danger you are in and how the odds are stacked against you, and it wants to instill a sense of dread or terror because that's part of the experience, then yeah, I think making that choice to say, yep, only a 1 in 6 chance gives you a hit and you have no rerolls is a perfectly valid design choice. Now, you would have to design the game around that, but that implicitly, in and of itself, is not necessarily bad. It could be done well. And I'm almost positive there are examples of games where it is done well. In fact, I think... I'm trying to remember. Is Spake Hold Vantage on 1 in 6? They have D6s, but I think they have 2 hits on them. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is a 1 in 6 now. It's been so long since I played. All right. Or event cards that are basically game over cards no matter how well you were doing in co-ops. Agree, disagree. I don't think an implicit game over is bad either. Again, taken out of context. Because I can imagine a game that includes game over cards in an event deck that are perfectly fine if the game gives you control over that event deck. That, like the closest I could think of would be, what is it? It's, The Captain is Dead. The Captain is Dead has one of my favorite event systems where as long as your sensors are up, you can see what the next 3 events are. And so you know that the insta game over event is going to come in 2 turns, and you can manipulate and you can, avoid events. You can prepare to destroy them with the equivalent of photon torpedoes. And it's terrifying when the aliens take your sensors down. It is scarier to lose your sensors than it is to lose your weapons, your transporter, your medical bay. Everything else pales in comparison to how terrifying it is to be flying blind. Because there are you aren't going to survive this card. If you let it through, so that would be an example of an insta-game over card could enhance and improve the quality of the game if it was a game that was designed with it in mind. So no, I don't believe there are implicitly, inherently bad game design mechanisms. I think they could all be used. I don't think roll to move has to be inherently bad. I think it can be done well. Alrighty. Continuing, Dan says, a board game, preferably cooperative, where you set up based on the app. When you finish your input, what you've done in the app, when you finish, you input what you've done in the app, and it updates the existing world that is the same as everyone else's. Can it be done? Yeah, why wouldn't it? Or do you mean everybody else is at the table, or do you mean everybody else in the world who's playing that game? Either way, yeah, and that would be cool. A co-op game where you set up based on the app. When you finish, your input you've done into the app updates the existing world. No, I'm going to assume you're talking about, and I think that would be great. I would love to see something like this. Is it spoilers? There is one game that I can think of. It's a legacy game that kind of does something like this, but the way the world changes is in a way that doesn't really affect gameplay. It's just kind of more like look, that's kind of a cute little thing it does, and it uses a digital implementation to make this happen. It's Charterstone, but I won't say what. And I thought that was cool. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, this is so cool. Why don't they actually permanently change the state of the game based on what hundreds, if not thousands of other players have done around the world? It can be done, and it should be done, because that would be an awesome example of melding the best of analog and the best of digital. I would love to see something like that, where the rules change because of, as a gestalt, all the hundreds or thousands of players combined make a series of decisions that certainly says, hey, from now on, everybody starts poor, or whatever. That would be amazing. All right. But it would require an app. It would require online databases in the cloud and all that. But it would totally be doable, and it would be great. Number 3, what would a true war game with chips or blocks and such, but perhaps a lower complexity scale, need to do for us to be interested in it, I would guess co-op and sci-fi fantasy theme instead of heroic. That would certainly help. What else? Well, it's not just me. It's Jen who has to be convinced of this. So let's up your chances. Let's call it Lord of the Rings. Because, Jen, although no, actually, the thing is, Jen loves the Lord of the Rings. She loves the movies. She's read the books. She hates the warfare. So I don't think making a game all about Lord of the Rings warfare is going to pull her in. She hates all that stuff. She loves Lord of the Rings in spite of the fetishism of war in those books. So what would it have to be? I'm sure it's doable. You're right, co-op, and it would have to be a situation, one where I'm considering Jen in this as well, where we are defenders, we are objectively heroic, there's no gray, and I would say we are warring against a non-sentient species that is nevertheless intent on destroying us, so we have no choice but to defend ourselves. It'd have to be a series of things like that. But even still, why do that? We would still rather play a game where it's all about building things rather than killing things. But heck, we like Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven is a little tiny war. It's a battle. It's just a war on a very, very tiny scale. But, every one of those, we love the gameplay of that game. And that game could have been, rather than every mini and every standee representing just one character in a dungeon, those could represent, troops and phalanxes and whatever all the other war terms are. And I think we'd still enjoy that game if, the thematic stuff were addressed. So I think that's what it would take. So give us Gloomhaven, but just retheme it slightly. Even still, it would have an uphill battle because we're just not into it. With Jen and I, we played Star Trek Attack Wing. And, and Jen, the base thing, I think I was the Enterprise. And no. Jen was the Enterprise, and I was the other two ships, the Romulan and the Klingon ship. And at one point, I remember this very clearly, Jen had me dead to rights. She could have easily taken out my Klingon ship. And she said, look, I just have to stop playing now. Because I know from being a fan of the show, there's hundreds, if not thousands of Klingons on that ship, and I don't want to kill them all right now. But that's what I have to do to win, and I'm done with this. I don't want to play it. That gives you an idea of where she's at. And honestly, I respect that, and I admire it. And while I'm a little bit more comfortable with that, I want to be more like Jen in that regard. So that's kind of where we stand. Alrighty. Number 4. Related. Why do I think wargames... let's see. First of all, before I continue, somehow the recorder got in the background. I want to make sure it's still recording. Yes, it is. Excellent. Let's just go ahead and bring this in the foreground and minimize it so I can still see the recording and then bring the email back on top. Hey, alrighty. None of that was of any interest to any of you. Sorry. Related question. Why do I think that wargames have seen the least modernization? That's an interesting question. Daniel has always been interested in them, but when I get to attrition, roll for each unit to see if they die, or the lucky dice combat, I want to pull my hair out if I had any. Oh, Dan, I feel your pain there. Getting very thin up there. I've been a Rogaine user since I was in my mid-20s. All right, sorry, that's neither here nor there. I got into the personal section a little bit there. There's only one game I've come across that has really innovative mechanisms with multi-use cards for various things and combat, no dice combat. Honestly, I have no insight into this world. I think if I had to guess, based on my understanding of human psychology and gamer psychology, that it in large part... I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it grognards, which I think are like the diehard, which is a French term for war enthusiast. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure it's pronounced in a different way, but it looks like grognard. I think they wear their love of these old style mechanisms as a badge of honor. They don't want it to change because they might even intellectually recognize, yes, this is an anachronism. There are much better ways to do this that are much deeper and richer, but this is the way we like to play. This is a last bastion of a style of game. I identify it. I think for a lot of wargamers, it is not a casual thing for them. A lot of wargamers, it's a lifestyle. And if you love your lifestyle, and if you didn't, why would you make it a lifestyle game? You don't want to see it change. You don't want to see it modernized. You like it just the way it is. Thank you very much. And it gives you a sense of being on the inside, being a part of the club, even a sense of superiority that just feeds just certain psychological drives that are ubiquitous amongst all humans. So I think that's just the way it is. I can take a step back and admit that yes, what is done with more modern versions of Star Trek is objectively superior. The depth of storytelling and the production quality to my my blessed beloved original series. Doesn't mean the original series still isn't my favorite, because it is. So I imagine it's something to do with that kind of psychology. Number 5 from Dan. There's a mechanism, card play conflict resolution, that apparently we skipped in the corner to corner. Alrighty. That states, each player simultaneously or sequentially plays one or more cards. These modify the base outcome of a conflict and allow various special abilities to apply. But Gloomhaven isn't on there, among other games it should also be. Do I think it should be? All right, are you suggesting is card play conflict resolution as defined an element of Gloomhaven? Each player simultaneously or sequentially plays one or more cards. These modify the... Yes, of course, by the definition. I think you should... You can go onto Boardgame Geek on any game page. Up in the top right corner, there is an edit button where you can specify either this mechanism should be listed or this other one shouldn't, and submit it. And if they accept it, and you can give an explanation for why, and if they accept it, I believe you get a Geek Gold. You get 5 Geek Gold, you can get a micro badge. You get 10 Geek Gold, you can enter into Geek Gold auctions and win games. So fix it, Dan, fix it. You are right. That is the very definition of Gloomhaven right there. Alrighty. Does that mean Isaac Childress is a secret wargamer? I don't know. It's an interesting thing to point out. Okay. It is Gerald, who has San Juan. Gerald thinks it's good, but they wish it was more thinky. Is Jump Drive the answer, or to be more of the same? No, I would say if anything, I would say they're comparable, but Jump Drive, if anything, you could say maybe is a bit less thinky. If for no other reason, it is so fast. Jump Drive is over in literally half the amount of time it takes to play San Juan. And so you literally just do not have as much time to build up your resources and whatnot. So, no. If you like San Juan, but you want something more thinky, I believe the answer is Puerto Rico. Because that is what San Juan is, a simplification and streamlining of. But if not that, I would certainly say that on the whole, Race for the Galaxy is a more thinky game than San Juan. Both games were developed at the same time, kind of in unison. There was some overlap because they were both attempts to take the gameplay of Puerto Rico and simplify and streamline and condense it down into card game form. And I don't think many people would disagree that Race for the Galaxy has a lot of the same DNA because they both come from the same place, but that it is the richer, deeper game. Okay, Gerald continues. He's recently noticed it, beside it being there forever, that my Patreon emails for early access run-through say to reply to the email if there are questions. Does that mean I prefer people not to comment questions on the YouTube video until it goes public? You'd prefer them to mail it? No, I don't care, one way or the other. Totally fine with me. I say that because I suspect some people who actually back me on Patreon literally don't have a YouTube account and can't comment on videos. But if you want to comment there, that's totally fine. I actually always kind of get a kick out of it when a video eventually goes live and, somebody had posted and I'd talked to them like a week earlier. And then when it goes live, he's like, hey, how did this person, ask this question 5 days ago? Hey, that's just a way for me to advertise. Well, you could get early access as well if you check out my Patreon page. So either way is fine with me. I just said, hey, in case you don't know what to do and you have a question, just reply to this email, but you don't have to. Not at all. And by the way, folks, for anybody listening, did you know I have a Patreon page where you can get early access? Yeah. All righty. Third question. which is a follow-up to my opening, my declaration. Gerald says he sees on the Kickstarter page that it will never hit retail, that it is a Kickstarter exclusive game. Why is that a good decision? Because, well, first of all, I can't say, because while I have spent over 200 hours working on the design of the co-op expansion, and a lot of my design work there has bled into the main game, and to be fair, I've had a pretty significant impact on the main game's design as well, trying to make it more Euro-y and less wargamey, although it can still be very wargamey if you want. But you can now totally play it as a Care Bear. Anyway, though, so I still have nothing to say, and I've never really given two wits about the business decisions behind it. So I am not saying this with any air of authority, but why would it be a good decision? Because Plunderous is being made by one guy. And he does not want to take on the extra burden of becoming a full-time board game publisher, maintaining a warehouse of games that will potentially bankrupt him, because there are many examples of that happening. So, nor does he want to take on all the extra pain and hardship of trying to develop relationships with the, the distributors. So the distributors will take on that extra risk, but he still bears some of the risk himself. He actually did put out a game earlier. Plunderous is not his first game. His first Kickstarter game, actually it's his first Kickstarter game canceled because it just didn't find an audience. His second one did succeed. It was called Crimson Creek. That's how I met him, because I covered it. And I had some questions about it, and he said, well, hey, I'll play it with you on Skype. And then we kind of got chatting and we became friends. And this, publishers, is why I will not play games with you on Skype, because I don't need more lifelong friends. Anyway, sorry, that's totally neither here nor there. So we became friends, but I mentioned all this because Crimson Creek, he self-published it, and he did put that into distribution channels. And in the end, it ended up costing him a significant amount of money. And it was not worth it. So for him, he just wants the Plunderous campaign to be clean and simple. He will print as many copies as there are backers, plus another, whatever the number is, 10, 20 copies for component parts and dealing with lost shipments and stuff like that. Because he does not want to take on the extra burden that's involved. And I think that's a smart business decision, because there are so many out there that fail to do that now have a garage and their friend's garage and their in-laws' garage full to the brim of games that they're just going to gather dust. And Andy didn't want that to happen. So I think it's a good decision. A bad decision he made, he was... right up until seconds before he launched, he had a retail-friendly backer level where you could get 6 copies at a discount. And of course, so retail shops could do that, or people who wanted to get together who were in the same city could get, I forget what it was, 10, 15% off, I forget, I don't know. I'm totally making that up. He took that out at the last second because he wasn't sure there'd be enough interest in it, and he was trying to be conservative and not over-assume. And some people who had given him feedback were kind of confused by it, so he took it out, and he very much regrets that now because there's been a lot of interest in that. So that's a lesson learned. But anyway, I do think it makes perfect sense. And honestly, I don't understand why anybody would do anything different. If you've got a dream to make a game, you're insane to take on all that extra work. You're insane to try and make a video game and make that your business, your livelihood. He's not trying to do that. He just he loves making games. And, he loves sharing them with other people. That's what he's trying to do. So I don't think it's a bad business decision necessarily, especially considering his previous experience. Okay, then we move on to Jack, who noticed I revised my Marco Polo rating this month. I used to have it in the 7s, and now it's solidly in the 8s. Is that because of Marco Polo 2? Jack thought I actually would like that one less because it's more open. What is the deal? Well, the deal, Jack, is you're right. I think Marco Polo is better than Marco Polo 2. However, my wife likes Marco Polo 2 more. And that carries weight with me. My rankings of games is not just my own personal feelings about it. It's also taking into account Jen's. I don't know that, actually, is Dungeon Pets still my top 10? It's in my top 20. Dungeon Pets would totally be in my top 50, but Jen loves it so much that pushes it up quite a bit. And Jen loved Marco Polo 2 so much more than 1 that pushed it up. However, I think you're wrong. I don't think Marco Polo was ever in the 7s. And I'm going to confirm that because there is an awesome website. Let me see if I can find it here. I should have a shortcut to it. It is Geek Group. Is that right? geekgroup.app. Go to that, type me in. You will get a list of all the games in my collection, and it will include a history of how I've ranked things. And here it is, right here, Marco Polo. The initial sync was 8.2. It is bumped up to 8.3. So that's a bump, but it's not as big as you're remembering. Now, to be fair, this isn't going all the way back in time. This is basically going back to the first time I ever went to geekgroup.app, which I think was sometime late last year, I think, maybe. Let's see, does it actually say when the initial sync was? I guess if I look at something that I know I haven't touched for a long time, I'd have to look at a bunch of stuff. So I don't know how far back this goes. Well, it goes back into 2019. Does it go back into 2018, 2017? Can I sort this? Yeah, I want to sort this by the opposite of most recent date. Can you let me sort by that? Yes, I can. Let's go to the oldest thing, because that's how old this is. All right, apparently I got on this page on May 24th, 2019. So if you would like to see how any of my rankings for any game has changed since that time, you can go to geekgroup.app. And so anyway, hopefully that answers your question. I don't think if it was ever in the 7s, that literally might have been a mistake or a typo or something like that, and I just corrected that I hadn't noticed. That would be my guess as to what. That's the only way, because Marco Polo has always been a solid 8. Right. Okay, let's go on to Nigel, who has a question about the Red Cathedral and the Board Game Geek Digital Spiel preview list. Alrighty, was looking at the Board Game Geek preview geek list for the hottest upcoming games for what would have been Essen time, and noticed that the current hottest with 255 thumbs is Red Cathedral, published by Devier Games and designed by Israel Sendrero and Sheila Santos. Is this a game I've heard of? And if so, will I be covering it? I don't think so, man. Let me go on ahead and click the link. Very nice of you to give me a link. And also, thanks for the dog pic. I'll share it with Jen later. That is, and I think that's Charlie, right? I think, if I recall correctly. Anyway, okay, I do have it on my wish list as a number 4, thinking about it. So what that means is at some point in the past, after it made it onto Board Game Geek, I looked at it, read it, and said, all right, okay, maybe that's interesting. I don't know. I'll think about it. And I marked it a 4. If I had said, oh, that sounds like a must-have, I would have marked it a 3 or a 2 or maybe even a 1. So I marked it a 4 and then promptly forgot all about it until this email right here. So, you're intrigued that the hottest game on the list is one that doesn't appear to be on the radar of the normal board game platforms at the moment. I agree. That is very strange. Here's the deal. I do not want to presume, but the Board Game Geek hotness list is very, very, very easily hackable. 255 thumbs. If I wanted to, I could get 255 thumbs on any game. I could make any game beat that if I wanted right now. And I wouldn't even necessarily have to leverage my authority. I suspect the publisher Devier Games has a mailing list of thousands of people. And I'm not saying they did this. I have no idea. I'm going to assume they didn't. But it'd be very easy for them to say, hey, everybody, we're really trying to get a lot of attention for Red Cathedral. Could you just go to this link and give it a thumb? And instantly, it would become the number 1. I don't think Board Game Geek has any protection from this. And again, I must add, Red Cathedral might have earned that genuinely. I don't know how or why, but it is certainly a surprise that a game from unknown designers, a very, a not particularly well-known publisher, could be killing it that much with only one video from them. But maybe word is spread. Let's see. Look in the forums. Let's look at the forums. There are, for this game, 3 threads: rulebook, any news, at the end of 2018, and release date. So no. There's something else. Maybe somebody talked about it. Maybe it got a board game geek message. I don't know how it is. And I don't want to assume the worst. It is kind of suspicious, though. Hey, Charlie. Oh, you're adorable. I don't know. I am not going to presume. I am going to suggest that that is one possible explanation. And in all honesty, it seems to me to be the most likely, but I would not assume that unless given evidence. Okay, Mike, big fan of the show, says Mike. You've heard I say that my run-throughs exist. Sorry, I was just making sure the recording is still going on. To show what the game feels like to play. He all capped that. So Mike thought the question might be interesting, but it's long, and he apologizes. And it is long. And if I scan the rest of this 6-paragraph email, I literally don't see a question mark anywhere in there. Mike, you're a monster. But let me see if I can just quickly skim it. All right, well, I have their place. If I listen to game for Sagrada. If we categorize games by feel or maybe player interaction, say these are both interactive puzzles, Sagrada and Splendor. Looking at another individual puzzle, Race for the Galaxy. All right, okay. Oh no! You did, all right. No, there's a question mark. I was just blind. I couldn't see it. The questions, and Mike, I do not want to think you wasted all your time typing all that up. I've mentioned this before, but I just want to mention it again. After I'm done, I try to keep this spontaneous. When I go to type up the show notes for this podcast, I do read all the emails then from ship to stern. Anyway, the questions. Do I think it's possible or useful to categorize game feel in this way? Oh, I got to look up what way you mean. And what categories would I feel describe the game feel of my top 10 games? Or if the top 10 all have a similar feel, what would I categorize a more unique feeling games in my collection? And he apologizes for being so long-winded. Alrighty. Right. So, Mike. All right. So, all right, your example, your wife said that Splendor was like Sagrada. But they're obviously not, but she feels like they are. That's me filling in the worlds. All right. And I'm scanning ahead, looking through. I'm sorry, I know this is boring for everybody but Mike, who is, literally on the edge of his seat, expecting me to read all of this. If we take a look at an individual puzzle game, Race for the Galaxy, doesn't have blocking. I take what you want, and it just makes it feel different than Sagrada. Instead, it has predict your opponent's moves, which is a different, distinctive interaction. All right. I'm sorry, Mike. I don't know the answer to your question, but I will suggest that you can categorize feel, but feel is so incredibly subjective, because I'm sorry, to me, Splendor does not feel like Sagrada at all. And I'm struggling to make that dichotomy fit. I'm trying to get that square peg to fit in the round hole of my brain, and I can't quite do it. So I think such categorization is probably useful to individuals, but I don't know that it makes sense to do on a bigger... is it possible or useful to categorize game feel? I don't know that would be interesting to do. If I look, but here's a thought exercise. Let me go look at my top 10 by going to ranked.rahdo.com and see how much overlap there is amongst those 10 games in terms of what I consider to be the feel of these games. Pandemic feels very, very different than Shadowrun Crossfire. Yes, they're both co-ops, but no, they feel so different to me. And let's see, and Gloomhaven is my number 3. That's a co-op, which feels radically different than the other two. They share mechanisms, but they do not in any way, shape, or form feel the same. Agricola maybe shares some feel with Castles of Burgundy. Maybe the building aspects of it. But Burgundy is so much more harsh and restrictive. I think they still feel very different. Agricola is about self-imposed restrictions, while Burgundy is about game-imposed restrictions. Nations in Agricola, do they feel it all the same? I mean, certainly not in terms of theme and the way you do activation. And I mean, at the end of the day, Nations is a drafting game. Is Nations my only top 10 drafting game? I think it is. Keyflower is an auction game. Keyflower and Peloponnese are both in my top 10. They are both auction games. But the way, and they're both tile laying games. But No, they don't feel the same either. None of these games feel the same to me. So I don't know. My top 10, I think I have 10 very unique feeling games there. If that answers your question. I don't think... I love ranking and classifying things, but I don't think feel is... It's just not grokking with... It's not resonating with me for some reason. But I look forward to reading the rest of your email later, and then maybe it'll all make sense then. Okay. Oh my gosh! And that was the last question for games. And let's see, do I have any gaming questions for Jen? Yes, I do. We've got a couple. So hang on, everybody, and we'll be right back, and we'll throw some game questions Jen's way. Okay. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Jen is in the pilot seat. I am way off to the side, and we are ready to do a couple more, just a few more game-related questions before we get into the personal stuff, starting with Jack. It's a different Jack. So many Jacks. And Jack wonders, seeing as how he felt an empathetic pain in his soul after listening to the most recent Rahdo talk-through where Jen said she hadn't been able to play her favorite game, Dungeon Pets, in 11 years because of the Rahdo runs-through machine. And that was an exaggeration. It is... We have definitely... I don't think the game has been out for 11 years, quite frankly. She probably hadn't played it more for 3 or 4 years. But anyway, Jack then wonders, what would our schedule be like if we didn't care to make any money from doing Kickstarter reviews or being on Patreon? At some point, the effort required to get publishers to send you free games overpowers the reason for doing it in the first place. How do we view that life balance? And that's for Jen.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think we're worried anymore about getting publishers to send us games. They do that.
Well, they'd stop doing it if I stopped filming.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying they've been very generous and they send us games. Mm-hmm. So that part's ticked.
Sure.
That box. So what would our schedule be if we basically stopped doing Rahdo runs through?
If Rahdo runs through just stopped, yes.
I don't know. What would you do? What would you do?
I think they mean what is our gaming schedule would it be?
Oh. I don't know. I'm sure we play games a couple times a week at the very least.
And that's it? We would play 2 games a week.
I don't know.
That's the question. You must answer the question.
Well,
Jack has felt all the empathy for you. The least you can do is give his thought more than a half a second question. Give his question more than half a second's thought.
Yeah.
Or both.
Actually,
yes, that works both ways.
I don't think we'd play a game every day.
Mm-hmm.
We don't play a game every day anyway.
All right.
So we tend to bunch them up and play 3 or 4 games in a day, and then a couple another day, and a couple another day, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that it would become like it's 10 o'clock, it's game time. 10 to 12 is game time.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 to 10 is make breakfast time or something.
All right.
So I don't think that's going to happen, because neither one of us are that disciplined.
All right, so that's what's not going to happen. But what is going to happen?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure we play games at least a couple times a week. So if we played 2 or 3 games a couple times a week, we'd probably play 5 to 6 games a week still.
All right, there you have it, Jack. All righty. If you had
thank you for your empathy.
Yes, if you had a magical board game vault containing every game that came out and every future board game, how many games would you play per week? Do you think you would fade yourself out of the public board gaming eye? Would Rahdo as a channel and online YouTube personality cease to exist? Well, you already answered his second question, so maybe we weren't answering his first question, since his second question is how many games will we play? What was his first question again?
How do you view that balance in your life?
Yes. You didn't actually talk about the balance of gaming versus other things.
Yes. Well, that's why I wanted to ask, what are you going to do if you're not doing Rahdo runs through? Because
I'll keep myself busy.
Oh, will you?
Yes.
All right. Well, and I will keep myself busy.
Mm-hmm.
So
the balance is we both keep being so busy there's no time for games other than twice a week.
I
It's
guess.
kind of your gut feeling.
I have things I want to do.
Left to your own devices, you, generally speaking, wouldn't want to play more than a small handful of games every week. So the fact that we pay 10 plus games a week means you are going well past your comfort zone. Left to your own devices.
Well, I enjoy spending the time with you,
mm-hmm.
and that is definitely more than just a fringe benefit of it all.
Yes.
But would we have more time to take the dogs out for, like go on adventure walks somewhere? Like get in the car somewhere and drive and go. Yeah, I think we'd probably do more of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, there's just loads of stuff there's lots of stuff I want to do. So I don't know. I feel like it's not that I don't have time. It's just that I have to.
Are you suggesting we are out of balance with games? Are we playing too many games now?
No, I don't know. I don't think so, because actually we've come around to it being, a job.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
Sometimes you got to spend time at the job. Mm-hmm. And so
yes,
it's made me less.
Jen has gotten into the habit recently, I've noticed, saying, so how much do we just get paid for that?
The backers this month bought me a bunch of dahlias. Thank you, backers! Yay! I think it's just that, you lose track of it sometimes. And when we were first doing Rahdo runs through and you had just switched to actually accepting money from actually Kickstarter backers. Because before then, we'd just been self-funding and then having the publishers mail us stuff, and that was good enough. But eventually, you actually started taking a salary. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it was like, oh, well, we were living in Malta, and I remember distinctly thinking, oh, okay, well, these flowers I just bought at the nursery, the backers bought those for me this month. And it was a direct translation of this work equals this perk. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a really nice thing to do, to recognize that, I was being supported as well because I had money to go buy flowers.
Okay.
So I liked that a lot. And so I've just been trying to do that a bit more, because otherwise you can kind of go, oh, well, he's making me do a bunch more stuff now. So I just want to make sure I've aligned my mind properly, that I am receiving a benefit directly from this extra work. Mm-hmm. And this month it was a whole bunch of very beautiful dahlias, which will come in the spring, and I will plant them, and I'm sure you will see them somehow next year in a picture somewhere. Somehow.
On a postcard, perhaps.
Yep. Because they are going to be gorgeous. Gorgeous, I say.
All righty.
So, was that too much information?
No. Was it?
I don't know.
I think it was interesting. It was answering the question about balance. You're still kind of dancing around it, though. I get the impression that you are playing too many games, but that you have made your peace with it because you're getting paid those dahlia bills, yo.
I get paid in dahlia bulbs.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think it just varies week to week, day to day, month to month.
I mean, the reality is we have to do it because it's crazy expensive to live in America.
Yes.
Where we pay however many hundreds we pay every month for health insurance that we can't afford to use, anyway, no, that's not gaming related, so it won't go down that route.
Okay, yeah, let's...
Alrighty,
I think in general the balance is fine. I think if it was really off, I would be saying, well, obviously it's totally off, and I hate this, and we need to change that, and something else. Mm-hmm. But I'm not saying that, so I think the balance is fine.
And there have been times in the past where you said, look, we're playing too many games right now. We need to slow it down. You have been pretty straightforward about that in the past.
Okay.
Let's see here. All right, and so then the second question was how often we play games and whatnot, and but... Then there was...
I want to tie that back, though. I want to say something
more
about
the
dahlias.
Done.
Because
yes, back to the dahlias.
I think having gratitude is a really important thing in life. And when you start taking people or things or whatever for granted, hey, maybe freedom for granted. Mm-hmm. So I just am trying to really be conscious of all the things that are good right now. I mean, 2020 has definitely been a humdinger of a year. But there's still a lot to be grateful for. So that, I guess, I want to tie that back into dahlia bulbs and feeling grateful that people like us and support us. I mean, that is amazing and incredible that we can continue to work in the safety of our home, making good money that buys us dahlia bulbs. We're not just living hand to mouth on ramen and bags of rice and beans. Mm-hmm. So I am grateful. I'd like to leave it at that. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yep, me too, definitely. And let's see. Then the Jack continued, wondering if, I think his second question about the Magic Vault meant, oh, we don't have to keep doing Rahdo runs through because the games are still coming in. Although, again, we do Rahdo runs through now as a job. It's a full-time job for me, and it's kind of a part-time job for Jen, basically. Mm-hmm. It is my career now.
Yep.
I'm one of the small handful of people in the world that actually gets paid to do a full-time job of playing and reviewing board games.
You've always had awesome jobs, though. You've been very lucky that way.
Well, was it awesome when I was...
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
But I'm just saying in general, that was an awesome... You had a good curve. You had a good go at it.
I've had some less than awesome jobs as well.
That's true.
Alrighty. Do I think... I mean, he didn't say it, but the presumption is with the dissolution of Rahdo runs through that I would fade out of the public board game eye. And I don't know. I think... I mean, I imagine my inclination would be to create a new account on Board Game Geek that is not associated with me at all and post there, so that I'd be posting more as just a regular person giving my 2 cents. I think that would be my natural inclination. And if that implies anything, I think it is, yes, I would try to recede from the public eye such as it is. And
but you wouldn't do it anonymously. You wouldn't be Joe Blow 213.
I mean, I might as well. If I'm not saying who I am, then I am being anonymous.
Oh, so it wouldn't be as Richard Ham.
Right. I would just... I mean, a lot of people don't say what their name is on Board Game Geek. They just say they're board game #1 fan man.
That was my clarification.
Yeah.
Were you going to be honest about it?
I don't know. Maybe I'd come up with a nom de plume. And would Rahdo as a channel and YouTube personality cease to exist? Probably. Shay is doing great. I could certainly imagine switching over the reins to him and allowing him to take over. I mean, he does very well with his channel, but my channel does a lot better. And if he took over or did 100% of the content on it, I would think he would find that attractive because he'd be making more cash doing the same type of thing. So something like that might happen. I don't know. Righty.
But not immediately.
Yeah. Right, because we still live in America and health insurance is stupidly expensive, amongst other things. Alrighty. Would I still join the weekly Alaboom since I say that the Rahdo persona requires, or since the online Rahdo requires me to put on the stage persona? I suppose I don't do the Alaboom as a means to enhance my standing because nobody watches it. I just do it because I like Lance and everybody else. So maybe I'd keep doing it. I don't know. But, Rahdo Runs Through would have no impact on that one way or the other because Rahdo Runs Through doesn't have any impact on it now. Alrighty. And then we get to Emil, who had a whole bunch of personal questions, which we'll get to in a bit. But amongst them, there was one that was more gamey. So I thought I'd bring it to the forefront. His number 6 question, so I'll have 5 more later. How do we balance our love of legacy gaming versus our distaste for consumerism? And Jen, do you want me to explain that?
Legacy gaming is a one-time game.
Exactly.
But we've used our legacy boards before to replay games.
Yes.
Or for other games. To continue playing the game on that legacy board.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
That is the easy answer, is that we don't look at legacy games as one and dones. And so, I mean, we still have Pandemic Legacy 1 and Pandemic Legacy 3 and My City and Charterstone. And
there is something to be said, though, for the delight of a legacy game, because you're customizing it. You're never going to have that same experience again because you've made irrevocable choices. Even when we did 2 Charterstones, didn't we? We did one with you and me, and then one with David and Angela.
Yes, and the same for Pandemic Legacy as well.
Okay. And it was different. I mean, yeah, actually it was. And fortunately, I forget a lot of the details. So playing the second box with friends was almost as good as playing it the first time with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did remember some stuff.
Well, then, how do you reconcile your appreciation of that with your distaste for rampant, wasteful consumerism? That you shouldn't do that, because that's just cardboard and wood consumed. It could have gone to an evergreen game, I believe, is Emil's point.
That's hard, isn't it? I guess.
Well, also, we played Pandemic Legacy Season 2 all the way through, and then we set the box on fire, as you recall. And we did a very bad job of it.
We did a horrible job of it.
And that can be found, I believe, in I don't remember. I recorded it. It was shared. I don't remember where I put it. Maybe it was in the final thoughts for season 2. I don't remember. But anyway, so do you have a hard time reconciling that we played a game and then burned it up when that and the existence of that is implicitly designed to be finished and
be done
and
with.
consumed
Yeah.
by flame.
By flame. That's interesting. I think I'm going to have to look at the cost and ratio kinds of things, cost to benefit ratios about that, because when you look at the amount of enjoyment that we got out of those legacy games, even when the one we burned, I think it was probably a fairly decent ratio, especially if you compare it to something like cigarettes, which you also burn up, right? I mean, that is a real difference in the, well, maybe not the enjoyment, but certainly the amount of time that particular amount of money was being used to provide enjoyment. So I guess I don't really know quite how to say that.
Okay.
I guess if you pick up a legacy game and you only play the first campaign, then maybe that's a waste of money, but that could happen with any game. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, to me, aside from the fact that the easy answer is, well, no. Contrary to popular belief, most legacy games can continue to be played. There's very few that I've seen so far that can't continue to provide a fun experience if you enjoyed it all the way through the campaign. That aside, Jen and I'm surprised she didn't mention this, so maybe I'm putting words in her mouth, but I believe she agrees, because we have often talked about the fact that we don't have kids, and we didn't, and we won't.
Yep.
And so our footprint on this planet is so inconsequential compared to the vast majority of people who will have children, who will have children, who will have children upon children upon children upon children, generations after they are gone. Jen and I, we, relative to the vast majority of all humanity who lived throughout all of mankind's history, have such a tiny bottom line impact on the consumption of our world that we kind of give ourselves a pass.
Well, but we are also doing our part. We recycle.
Well, of course, yes, we do all that too.
We drive a Prius, and we're trying to do the best we can anyway. Mm-hmm. But that is true.
Yes.
The sheer fact that we haven't created any future consumers.
Yeah.
And we
it's,
rehome dogs. I mean, we're not even out there buying.
I fear Jen thinks that I just try to imply that we're cold and callous to the issues of the world. That is not the case, but there's no getting around it. Our impact on this planet is already incredibly minimal compared to almost every other human being that has ever lived, and on top of that, even though we're already still limited, we still work very, very hard to recycle like crazy and use fuel-efficient machines and carbon offset when we fly and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we give ourselves a pass if we decide we're going to burn this game up, quite frankly, when we're done with it.
Yep.
So that's kind of how we look at it. Or at least that's how I look at it. I'm not sure if Jen 100% agrees with that.
Well, I think you watched Penn and Teller. They had a show, what was that, about 15 years ago, called Bullshit.
Well done, keeping it family friendly, because children can't spell.
Well, I can't win.
It's cool.
All right, anyway. And they did one of the things was on recycling and how it was totally pointless to do it. And actually, now that we know that the majority of our plastics just get sent over to third world countries where they might recycle them, or they might burn them, or they might, who knows what, perhaps, again, they were right, and recycling isn't really the thing. It's deconsumerizing. Buy less, reuse, reduce, all that. So, it's quite, but anyway, I think that made a huge impression on you, and you were really resistant to doing any kind of recycling stuff for a while. And I don't know if you've come back around.
I wasn't resistant to it. I just wasn't going out of my way. I mean, for you, it was an obsession and a crusade. And I was like, honey, you know what? A couple cardboard boxes, just for our convenience. We don't actually carry it in the car and keep it there for the next 3 weeks until we can finally get in. I mean, you really, really, and I'm like, at the end of the day, honey, it just doesn't matter if a couple cardboard boxes slip between, because at the end of the day, there are issues with it that were outlined. Now, of course, like you said, that was 15 years ago, and obviously there have been big advancements since then.
Yep.
Although it's still nowhere near as effective as most people think, and I'm not going to say it's a sham. It's because it's not. I mean, it's driven by people trying to do the right thing, but it isn't as free and clear as people would assume. Although, again, I mean, I just saw. Was it some new outfit in Florida has got a new patent pending way of processing stuff that does a better job than what's come before, and they're opening up factories around the country now. So I mean, I agree with it in theory or in principle, and so I'm fine doing it, but it's not necessarily the silver bullet that some people think. It's as much a symbolic gesture as anything else. But I'm down with symbolism.
Well, but I think it's really important to recycle metals, your aluminums, and your tin cans.
And that was underlined in that episode, that if you want to recycle, it's cans. Because that has that works really well. That has a clear through line that is very effective. But trying to recycle all your cardboard and your plastics and all that.
Well, plastics are problematic because you can get little tiny pieces and then they clog the machinery and
there's all kinds of issues.
Yeah, I mean, we went to a recycling event. What was it, last summer?
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, unfortunately, I don't know most, but a lot of they call it hopeful recycling.
Yes, that was the term. Hopeful recyclers that just mess everything up.
Yep, because somebody will stick in polystyrene something or other into the plastics, and then it takes the whole batch out.
And it's basically a huge percentage of the stuff that you recycle effectively ends up not being recycled because you have to be super hyper precise, and most people aren't, because they're hopeful. Let's recycle this too. Okay, you just threw that in. You just threw away 100 tons of recycled material from your city because you did that. That's an exaggeration. It was nowhere near 100 tons, but it is a problematic system. It will get better over time. And that had nothing to do with gaming at all.
No, sorry about that. We kind of got off on a little rant there.
Yes, but I guess at some point we were switching over to non-gaming stuff because we are over here now with Marlin. Although that means I didn't get a chance to put in shoot. Now I'm going to have to figure out where the transition is. Honey pie, that was very much a personal question when we were in the gaming section.
I'm sorry.
All right, folks. We're going to be right back with the personal stuff. And, sometimes some stuff bleeds
Was
over.
that it? Was that, that was
we'll be right. Yes, that was it for games. It was just 2 questions. All right, hang on, everybody. We'll be right back. Okay, now we're back. And honey, now you can talk about recycling. Oh, wait, we're already done with that.
No, I'm sorry. I really want to talk about games now.
Too late.
Oh, man.
All right, first of all, Marlin has a random wish saying, come on, Rahdo, we are screaming to see all those doggy pictures. Why not share them in a dedicated post on Patreon? When privacy and such allow a thing, obviously must generate a lot of likes. I know. There aren't that many. It's like 3 or 4 that come in, and I suppose I could, but people didn't necessarily sign up for having pictures of their dogs posted publicly. I'm sure they're fine with it, but it's a cute idea. But now you just convinced me I should stop talking about all the dog pictures and we should just look at them silently so as not to torture you, Marlin. Apologies for that.
Marlin, there are 1 or 2 photos on the web of cute dogs, and you might, if you could Google cute dog,
Don't do it. It'll never end.
You can just pretend that those are the ones we're talking about.
Yeah. It's not an unreasonable request. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But moving right along, you are wondering, are we looking forward to the new Dune movie? And related to that, do we... you snuck a game question into your non-game related.
Let's talk about games.
Do we need a real Euro game based on that franchise instead of the more thematic, i.e. Ameritrash, he didn't say it, I did, style games? And which Euro game would be best fitted to retheme it to? Let's see. Well, honey, you don't know anything about Dune, do you?
Nope.
You have seen the movie Dune.
I don't think I have.
With Sting And
No.
No, you never saw it.
Nope.
All right, so Jen is going to tune out now because she's actually, as we speak, shopping for Biden-Harris lawn signs because she wants to declare to our neighborhood our intentions, which is counter to her normal, I want to keep everything private sort of thing. But
No,
so Jen's going to continue working on
I
that.
want to encourage the other people in my neighborhood. I want to make it normal because we live sort of in the middle of, what did you call it, Trump country?
We are in southern Washington, which is the more conservative area of Washington State. So we are in Red Town, definitely.
Yep. And some of our neighbors have started putting them up, and I just want to make it normal. And I want to make it, I want to encourage everybody.
Not that has anything to do with Dune. I guess I'm looking forward to the Dune movie. I'm sure it'll be fine. I like the original one. Although I haven't seen it for probably 15 years at best. I don't have a huge, deep, abiding love of it. I just thought, oh yeah, that was a neat movie from my childhood. I've never read the books. Don't really have any interest in it. And a game that could be retrofitted to the Dune universe. I don't know. I would probably just pick any civilization game. Do Tapestry. Do Nations. And just retheme it. I think that could work pretty well. As you can see, I'm sorry, Jen has nothing to say, and I really don't have very much to say either about Dune. And Jen...
I'm giggling because there's a yard sign that says, Alexa, change the president.
I don't know that.
She doesn't know that.
Alexa doesn't know how to do that. 95.
But still, that's hilarious.
Alrighty. Let's see.
I just wanted to see if maybe she'd say something funny.
Oh, no, she was unaware of that yard sign. Okay, we're going to move on to questions from Mathilde. Not Matilda, just Mathilde. Or Mathilde. I'm going to say Matt. Question from Matt. It's about geocaching, honey. In Corner to Corner, I mentioned that the two of us are familiar with geocaching. Matt's, how do you pronounce this? How do you pronounce this name? It's French.
I would have called it Matilda, but...
Yeah, is it Matilda?
I think so.
I mean, maybe, is that how you spell Matilda? And I've just never seen Matilda is with a Matt Hilda? Yeah, you're right. Okay, Matilda, sorry for that. That was on me. But anyway, Matilda says, I mentioned geocaching in Corner to Corner. I'd be curious to hear the story of how we were introduced and if it had anything to do with living so close to geocaching.com's headquarters, apparently.
Ooh, where is it?
There answers your question. We have no idea what their headquarters is. What's your second best memory about geocaching? The very best, I suppose, being the birthday cache that I mentioned. What's our favorite type of cache? Traditional, multi, mystery, etc. What's our favorite container? Wow. Are we a TFTC type of geocacher? I doubt it.
The first two complete?
The first two, I don't know. I'm assuming that means don't take something, leave something, I assume. As you can see, we're not hardcore. No. We do not know all the phrases and the terms.
FTC
or are we very talkative on our found it? Apparently TFTC means just take it and shut up. Don't fill up the log. Are we very talkative?
Oh, thanks for the cache.
Thanks for the cache. Oh, yeah, do we do a TFCC? Yes, there we go.
Yeah, we do a lot of that.
Yeah.
Okay, wow,
honey,
that's a lot of questions.
You have to put Biden lawn yard signs away and answer all of Matilda's questions about geocaching.
Okay.
How did we even start it? I have no idea. You must have discovered it.
I'm thinking you discovered it because you're the tech guy.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like something. It sounds like something about, I got to go outside and do stuff. I better hide this and make sure she never discovers it. I would imagine.
Well, I remember our first GPS unit was horrible, but pretty cool at the time.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea how we found it.
I don't know.
Was it somebody at work told you about it maybe or something?
You know what? It might have been because there was somebody in Texas. Did we do it before Texas?
I don't think so. I think it was Texas because I remember your birthday cache was certainly in Texas.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing it in Bend.
I think maybe it was somebody at work, and I cannot remember who now, but I remember there was a dude at work who was super stoked about it. And I keep imagining it being one of my coworkers from Hyperbole Studios, and that's certainly not the case because that was when we were still living in Seattle. I can't think of who it was, but it must be that. And they're really enthusing about it, and I said, okay. I guess we should give this a try. Or I don't know, maybe I bought it as a gift. Or yeah, I mean, look up our first geocaching on geocaching.com. And look, maybe that will jog our memory, perhaps.
Our memory. There's only one.
Yeah. So Jen's going to log into geocaching.com and look at our very first cache.
Just a minute.
Because I'm sure we logged it.
Okay, you have to narrate because they can't see what I'm doing.
I know, yes. So that's why I'm just trying to fill the dead air as Jen agrees to all of the stuff since she hasn't logged in on this machine. And now we look at our latest activity, Memory Lane. Let's look at our Memory Lane. And apparently this is a new feature we don't know about at all, and I don't think that's what we want. This is not at all what we want. And this is proving to be a terrible idea.
Recently viewed logs. Let's go there.
All right.
We haven't found anything for a long time.
Yeah, we have not done any geocaching now for probably at least 3 or 4 years.
Okay, here we are.
All right, so we go.
I think I have to go to page 4.
Page 4.
Which was
so
back
the very,
in 2002.
very first 2002. It was Low Water Rock and Roll Party in Texas. Yep. So we found it because a friend of mine probably told me about it at work, and I thought, oh, this is something Jen would like, and I probably got the GPS thing in secret, and maybe I did it for you as a birthday present. It's probably something like that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Matilda, as you can see, we cannot tell you what our story is because we don't remember. I mean, because it's not like it's ever really been an obsession. I think Jen kind of for a while wanted it to be an obsession, and we kind of got into it fairly hard, and that whenever we'd go anywhere, we'd always try to make sure we did a couple of caches. But I mean, we never really pushed ourselves or did hard ones. We always took easy ones, straightforward ones, not particularly adventurous ones.
Oh, but there's been some very clever hides that I can pop up into my mind, and I think, oh, that was so cool.
Well, what is the best one you can think of?
Well, actually, we kind of got Dad and Nance into it for a while there too, and so we've done some geocaching with them, and there's one in Green Valley, Arizona, where they live, and it was really cool. So we went. Actually, I think it was just me and Nance, but anyway, we went out and we did it, and it was a raised cache. So you had to find like a fishing wire thing on a tree and lower it down. I think it was a shoe.
Yes.
Maybe really high.
Yep.
And anyway, but the whole thing was that you had to find the pulley system and all that, and it was just super cool. And there's been other ones where I found them, and it's been on public utility things, and it's like a screw that's been hollowed out, and you had to, say, why is that screw there? Oh, that's kind of weird. And so you'd unscrew it, and that was actually the micro cache.
Oh, yeah.
So there's been really cool stuff like that, just stuff hidden in plain sight that's really cool. I know there's been some, just under. Well, I don't want to spoil too much.
Well, it's not like you're gonna. All right.
Well, but I mean, if they know where to start looking, then that might spoil.
Yeah, but if you say there was this one bridge one time, it's not like they're gonna do a search.
Well, there's a lot of bridges out there.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I mean, just really cool magnetic ones. So stuff is hidden where you wouldn't necessarily think it could be because of gravity. Or I just think people are extremely clever, and I enjoyed. I would say 90% of the caches that we went and looked for. There's been a couple that were frustrating, that make you feel stupid.
Yeah.
And those aren't as fun, but it's always nice to just get out anyway.
Yeah.
I think.
It's interesting, come to think of it, this kind of dovetails back to that other question about if we were doing less Rahdo runs through. I suspect we would probably do more geocaching.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'm almost positive we would.
Oh my gosh, it's been so nice. The last couple of weeks I've gotten out of the house because of some family things that we went and did out in the open, like going to the dahlia fields.
But who has time for that when there's 70-some games on the shelf out there that have to be filmed? I mean, we're taking time away from playing games to record this for you guys. It's tricky. So
yeah, but I'm just saying, this was, I guess I was excusing it because it was family. It was a family event. So we went and, wandered the dahlia fields and all that. But it was just so nice to get out. And I drove down highway, I don't know, something next to the Willamette River. And there's the second largest in the United States falls by volume on the Willamette River. And I was like, wow! And you could see it from quite a ways away, and the kind of the mist rising and everything, and I had no idea it was there.
And chances are there's some really cool geocaches there.
I bet. And there's we live in a beautiful part of the country. I'm sure everywhere's beautiful, but I would like to get out more. Yes. And we can do it just you, me, and the dogs, and we'll social distance. We'll go out geocaching. So.
Uh-oh, Matilda, you just changed our lives.
Yeah. Maybe we just need to schedule that in once a week. Go off and have an adventure walk.
I'm sorry, Matilda. When the sudden sharp drop-off and Rahdo runs through content occurs, I will tell everyone to blame you.
Well, she's in France.
Yeah, so you're safe. Okay. Have our interest for geocaching and board games ever mixed in any way? Did you ever come across a board game-themed geocache or series of geocaches?
Not yet, but we'll start looking.
Yeah. Matilda, by the way, is the proud owner of a Pillars of the Earth series, and she gives links to it, and also a Mystery of the Abbey series, and she gives links to that one too. Creating them was as much fun, and reading the logs is always a delight. So she also asked, are you a TF?
Thanks for the cash.
Because apparently Matilda would appreciate something a little bit more than that.
I usually try and say something, and usually we would also take a picture and post it on our log.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do try to give back, and cash loot is usually pretty dismal. So we didn't do it for the cash loot, but I usually brought glass along and would leave a bit of glass in the cache, which I really enjoyed doing.
Yeah. Alrighty.
And I enjoyed keeping an eye on that cache as well, because then at some point somebody would find it and go, oh, there's a pretty piece of glass in here. Or, took the cache, took the glass, left a domino or something, whatever they did. But it's kind of fun to just disperse the glass out there.
Alrighty. In the last episode of Rahdo Talks Through, we seemed to have very different predictions about what we'd be doing 5 years from now in terms of where our lives are.
Had different predictions, yeah.
How would you feel about combining your two visions and traveling in an RV across Europe while continuing the good work?
That is
Jen's vision.
Yeah.
Jen's attitude is, yes, we can continue to do Rahdo Runs Through from an RV. And stopping at game shops everywhere, and snagging their tables, and it'd be what do you call it?
Or gaming in the park.
I cannot think of the
that
word.
Morals.
What is
story?
Yeah. I can't think of the word for when you do a good thing for a shop because you give them exposure. Whatever.
Promotion.
Promotion. Okay. Thank you.
Yay!
So yeah, that is Jen's full. You could even invent the equivalent of woofing for gaming, or would that be called goofing? I'm sure.
What's woofing?
I'm not quite sure.
I'm gonna Google woofing.
I think she's just playing on the fact that I do goofs. I would be doing woofs instead, because we'd be doing them out in the woods. I'm not quite sure.
Well, there's Woofing Washington. Let's see.
No, she's from France. I don't think she's referring to Woofing Washington, which we've never heard of before today.
No.
Right. So she, Matilda offers several different suggestions for, and these are all the suggestions that what Jen thinks is the way it would work.
Did she visit a WWOOF?
Yeah, you're way overthinking it. She put a smiley face. She was just making a little joke with a clown nose and a wink.
Okay.
So I don't think she meant.
Well, woofing is a thing. It's the worldwide opportunities on organic farms.
Okay.
Well, woofing.
Well,
and it's basically you live on the farm, you help out, and you get free food and board.
Okay.
Well, woofing.
Is that what you want to do now?
Well, I'd like that, but you would be very busy filming in the RV, I'm sure.
There you go. So anyway, yes, Matilda, you are backing Jen's suggestion. My counter to that is, I don't think it would be as easy as that. And I think Jen tends to be a little bit more ambitious in terms of her ability to overcome inertia.
You know what? There are people all over the world that love you. So
who knows why?
A feeling
they're silly people.
That anywhere that we were, if you put out a call, people would say, "Oh, come over to my house and film a thingy," or "We'll meet you anywhere and bring a game," or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a non-problem.
Right. The thing is, the way I film now is the only way I can continue doing this.
Oh, you mean with all of the various
Because
cameras and
I
stuff?
no longer film guerrilla style where, I'll just pick up a camera, it's on the table, boom, I'll just go.
Why?
The last time I tried to do that, it was so painful and miserable, I swore I'd never do it again.
Oh.
Now that I've actually had a studio where I can just set up the game and start filming. I don't think I can go back to that. And I don't think it's viable to have this
No, of course not.
on the road. So we could continue playing
when
games.
He says this, he's got a table the size of where we would be sleeping.
Yes,
in
exactly.
an RV.
And cameras and microphones and lighting and everything all set up. So I just literally walk in, tell Alex to turn on the lights, and everything just starts up automatically. And a computer's on 24 hours a day, just waiting for me to press the record button and all of it. I can't go back to just saying, I'll just film whatever. So it would have to be something different. I mean, we could become board game Instagrammers and play games on the road and take snapshots of it. I don't think that's going to have the same impact necessarily. We could still podcast and whatnot about board games we played. I think it would have to switch to something like that, something more akin to the Spiel podcast, where every episode, hey, let's just tell you about the games we played and what we thought of them. And probably drop the Q&A because the podcast would just become, or maybe there'd just be a couple of questions, I don't know. So stuff like that would happen, but it would no longer be Rahdo Runs Through As You Know It. I just don't think, I am too old and too tired. I cannot go back to doing it the way I did it for so many years. The last run through I did, where I was filming freestyle, after I'd been filming this way for a few months, I'm like, what was it? It was Predaporter, because that was one of the first games I'd ever covered, and I was covering it again because the second edition was on Kickstarter, and I thought, let's go back and do it the old-fashioned way. It's like, oh my god, how did I do this for so many years? This is miserable. I don't know if it comes across in the video I did, but it was miserable.
Because you were all contorting and stuff.
And I was so physically uncomfortable, and just all of it. The extra work I have to do to keep everything in focus and in frame, and try. I know people get upset that there's too much motion. I try to keep the motion smooth. I just can't go back to doing that. So it's not like I could say, I'll just start filming the way I used to. The show would have to change radically.
Okay.
And it could, but
maybe it could be me filming you the whole time.
It could be. That's certainly a possibility. We've tried that in the past, and unfortunately, I think I'll just leave it there. I think Jen knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, you'd love it, you guys. You'd love it. Yeah. That was good fun.
Right, so...
Oh, God.
You okay, honey pie? Are you having some flashbacks?
I'm remembering all of my God.
All right, well, I'm going to let Jen recover while we move on to the next question. But there's nothing else. You gave Jen the biggest laugh she's had in weeks, it seems. Well done.
We should go back and watch that video. That was hilarious. Are you talking about the table one outside, right?
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've done it a few times, and it always ends up going pear-shaped.
I am not a professional photographer.
Maybe this could be the podcast. Jen just laughing uproariously for every episode for 20 minutes. Thinking about that one time. All right. And folks, I'm sorry to say...
What? Is that gone?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we can't share it because here's the problem. It's actually kind of a sad story. I almost figured I shouldn't say it, but
oh no.
Jen's referring to the fact that she filmed me when I did a run through for a very cool gaming table that was folding and portable and stuff like that, and we filmed it in our backyard in Malta, and it was one of the biggest, most viewed videos I'd ever done.
Really?
Eventually, I've taken it down because it turns out the publisher of that, the maker of that table, took the money and ran. And they left you could still go to their website, and maybe you could still do it even now, and you can give them money for another table, and they haven't made a table in over a year. So I was like, oh my god, people are seeing this video, they're putting money down, and then, and I don't, maybe things have changed. I want to think better of them. It's something I should go look into, but I basically took the video down. Oh. And it's clearly Jen's favorite video we ever did. I'm
trying to remember what it was, but type it in, I'll see.
I don't remember it either. All right, so I'm just doing a search for Rahdo folding table. And, let's see. No, I guess there are other tables.
Well, it wouldn't be on there because you've taken it down.
I know, but I was just wondering if, right. So here's, yeah.
Oh, unread.
I mean, I figured there'd be somebody somewhere talking about the fact that I did a video for it. And, but again, this is terrible for you guys just watching us, and there's nothing even on there. That's
okay, we'll deal with it later.
Right, but anyway.
Oh.
Sorry, didn't mean to.
Oh, it's this one.
Yes, it's the Game Anywhere table by Transforming Design. So this, go to transformingdesigns.com and see if they even still have their website up.
So this was last logged in on 2019.
Yeah, and their website is completely gone now. They've completely shut down. And some people got them, but the vast majority of people did not, and that was an expensive table. So it's kind of a sad end to that story. Look at their most recent comment, which was over... Was that it? No, this is... right, their updates are here. The last time they commented was a year and a half ago, where they said, regrettably, we do not have any answers on the delays, and then they've never said anything. No, actually, they have not said anything except 2 years ago. In 2018 was the last time they posted anything. And now their website is gone, so I had to take the video down.
Yeah.
Although I guess I could put the video back up now, because now people can't try to buy them anymore.
Wow, but look, 571 backers pledged $243,000.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It was something pretty terrible. And I felt very bad that I was tangentially involved. And a lot of people, because these were like...
That was cool.
They were super cool, but they were like $500 tables. And, people can't afford to lose that. So It's a real shame. But anyway, sorry, let's try and lift the... that was a roller coaster for you folks.
Jeez.
Jen's uproarious laughter, and now table tragedy. But anyway, we're going to move on to Emil, who wonders, Honey Pie, do you enjoy reading space opera?
I don't know.
Then the answer is no. Do you enjoy reading fictional works about traveling through space in science fiction-y type things?
Apparently not, since I can't think of a single one I've ever read.
Star Wars is a space opera.
Oh, no.
All right.
Well, what's Star Trek?
It's space opera.
Oh, then yes.
But you just said no.
Well, it depends on which opera, I
right.
guess.
You have, by which you mean you have read a few Star Trek novels, but only because you love Star Trek, not because you have any particular love
I did read Star Wars as a paperback as a kid.
Okay.
I did.
All right.
I did.
Well, Emil's next question was, do you have any recommendations? And apparently it's the paperback novelization of Star Wars, but only as a child.
What's the one with the clunky things?
That's Empire Strikes Back.
That's the one I read as a child.
Okay.
I will recommend that.
Right. But you have no interest in reading science fiction yarns about traveling the stars now.
Yeah, I think if the story was good enough, I'd enjoy it.
You're not seeking it out.
No.
All right.
No.
Okay. Let's see. When was the DK consideration? And looking at Emil's email, he is from Denmark. Because it's got the .dk, so he means when were we considering living in Denmark? Many U.S. immigrant friends never heard. Emil has several immigrant friends. Never heard anybody say the impossible without learning Danish frustration before. Trivia: the population of Denmark is 5.8 million. The Copenhagen's metro population is 2 million. And he's told stats-wise they are similar in size to Indiana. Okay. Just some interesting trivia. This happened in,
2001?
What was it? It would be like 2003 or 2004.
Yeah.
It was...
Let me check out my geocaching log.
We were looking to leave Texas. No, it'd be 2000. Yeah, it'd be 2003, 2004, because we left America in 2004. Or late 2003, we left 2 days after George W. Bush won re-election, basically. if I recall correctly. Which means, oh, no, it'd be so it was in 2004 because he took
Yeah.
office in 2005. So we were in Denmark in early to mid 2004, and because there was one company that really wanted me to go work there, and so they flew me out. We were mostly just looking at England. On that trip, I interviewed at, I don't know, 8 or 9 different places, and then also this one place in Denmark, because I don't remember why, and why they jumped out, but we really liked it, and did we do Denmark first or
No.
at the end?
At the end.
Yes, so we'd finished all our England stuff. We'd had a really great trip. We thought it was going to be awesome. We were super excited, and then we went to Denmark, and we're like, gosh darn it, we just decided we're going to move to England. What is this? This is amazing. And honestly, we were looking for any excuse to say no. Because the publisher or the development house, they were not giving me an excuse to say no. They were bending over backwards. They really wanted me really bad. They treated Jen like royalty, took her all over the place. You got to see Christiania. And the studio was really great. They had really great practices and all of that. And they were a young, small studio looking to grow, and they really wanted me to come on board. And we both always had our hearts set on moving to England, quite frankly. Jen is now looking through the history of our geocaches because that was still on her page.
So I am seeing that we did geocache in southeast London, England, on March 17th.
Right. So okay. Did we do one while we were in Denmark? I don't think so because they were with us the whole time.
Yeah, they were with us.
I mean,
and that's why we didn't realize too when we were, being shown around how important it was to be able to speak Danish.
Yeah.
It was only the night as we were getting ready to go to the airport the next day. We needed to fill up the car that we used, and we couldn't figure out how to work the pump.
Yeah.
The gas pump, because you had to push some buttons, which kind of stuff you wanted, and
it was at the end of a very long trip, so maybe we would have been, and it was late at night, and we were pressured and stressed because we had to get to the airport, and just all of a sudden everything felt very foreign.
Yeah.
And not that it necessarily was, and maybe it was just bad timing. If we'd done Denmark at the beginning of the trip instead of the end of the trip, maybe things would have gone very differently. But yeah.
I mean, we loved it. We loved it.
Oh yeah. It was,
being in Denmark and how clean it was, and
Huglik is now it's a permanent part of Jen's and my lexicon that we mention all the time. And we loved Copenhagen. Jen loved Christiania, but they spent a day with us and drove us out to the countryside.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. So sorry, Emil. Although if that had happened, I'm sure things would be very different now. I can only imagine. Alrighty, because I wouldn't have been on that work trip and picked up that pandemic. Who knows? Maybe anything's possible. Honey, Emil wonders: could you not come up with personally impactful, or you could not come up with a personally impactful game in an earlier episode? Somebody asked what games really had an impact on you in your life, and Emil says, "Yeah. What about EverQuest?"
Yes.
Was that not personally impactful on you in your life?
It was. Yes, it was.
Okay.
But that was a long... I mean, I played that for a year?
Yes.
Would you say?
Yes.
Yeah, and I made a very, very, very important friend in that as well. So
and I believe Emil knows that, which is why he's suggesting. The question last, what games have we played in our lives that had a big impact on us?
Oh, okay.
And your response was, none. Games have never made that big a deal to me, never had any impact on my life. And Emil's saying, oh, well, then I guess FO's not as close a friend as you thought.
Well, I think, obviously, he knows more than I did at the time. But you're absolutely correct. EverQuest did make a big impact on my life.
Yes. But no other ones. Well, just that one.
Also, Magic the Gathering made a big impact on my life. I mean, that changed quite a lot of things.
Really? How so?
It was something we could play together. For one thing, we did a lot of magicking.
Yes.
So I just think that kind of opened doors, because a lot of the video game stuff that you were interested in, I was not. And there was a few nice things like Cookies and Cream or all of the Zelda stuff, whatever. We would play that together. But the vast majority of video gaming, I'm just not really all that interested in like shooting people and stuff. So yeah, I think it just opened the door to us playing games together, but in a different way.
Okay, question for Rahdo. Did I sprain my ankle from running? Because Emil recommends brisk walks over running. Less strain on the body, comparable workout, arguably better experience. No, it was just a slick downhill slope. Early in the morning, the grass was wet with dew. I was wearing flip-flops, which I should not have been doing, and Daisy was being a dick. And I was kind of, and trying to take purposeful strides towards her to communicate through my body language that I was very serious and she should stop running away. And I took a step too hard, and my foot went out from under me, and I sprained my ankle. But the underlying question about the running is, dude, we have not run for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
We did it for like all of 3 months, and then it stopped. Why did it stop? Oh, it stopped because it started raining, and Jen did not want to go out in the rain. And then by the time it stopped raining a few months later, the inertia had failed.
Yeah.
And we set in, and we are both now probably.
Oh, we've got the COVID-19 going on here.
What does that mean?
The 19 pounds.
Oh, yes. There you go. Okay. I think I have heard that. Yes. Right. So that is unfortunate. That we have, for a brief window, we were both getting super hardcore for the first time in decades, but that stopped because it started raining. Yeah, let's see here. Jen, meanwhile, is back to Biden signs, and she's very much enjoying them. Okay.
It's a whole bunch of clever witticisms.
Yes. Alrighty. I'm sure that was not even a real sign.
End of an error. I love it.
Yeah, these aren't real signs. These are just photoshops that people are doing.
I'm on Etsy. People will sell me that sign.
Right, but that is not a picture of a real sign. That is a mocked-up sign. But yes.
They'll send me that for $23.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So, let's see. Jen, UST is generally bought from big stores and chains.
UST. UST.
Right.
Oh, T.
Yes.
TEA.
T. Yes.
Okay, yes.
Alrighty. UST is generally bought from big stores, chains, or online order regardless. Lots of tea goes through this house, I assume Emil's house, but we normally adventure to small tea shops with great selection.
Oh, yes. That's a very European thing. I loved that.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Oops. I'm sorry. He has a question mark in here, which I totally didn't see because it was right next to a parenthetical. Honey pie. UST is generally bought from big stores and chains? Question mark. Which is, where do you get your tea?
Yeah. I have a couple of places that make tea that I like to buy from. Harney and Sons is one. Adagio Teas, in the past I've bought a lot from them. There's a national...
And you have to buy from them direct? You can't buy them at the local Safeway?
Do you know, I think Harney and Sons has like some tea shops in New York City kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nothing here. So yeah, I buy them online. But there's another brand called Celestial Seasonings that I like, and you can just get that at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I totally know what you're talking about with the lovely, lovely boutique shops.
Where they make them in the back?
Well, no, but they've got the glass canisters filled with tea of all different flavors, and you can smell them.
So why don't you do those?
Well, it's mainly a European thing.
Oh.
I'm sure in Brussels, in Bruges, we went into some.
Wiped from my memory.
All right. Anyway. Yeah, I really enjoy that. It's wonderful to go into those.
So you're saying there's nothing like that in Portland?
Oh, there might be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I haven't. You have to be out walking. Mm-hmm. And then you just happen upon these in the town centers or whatever, and you go in and it's a whole experience. It's just wonderful. But when are you out walking in Portland? Mm. It's America. You're in your car. You go to where you're going to go. You get out, go into the store, and you buy your thing, and then you get back in your car and you go home.
That is more efficient.
Well, it's not anywhere near as charming.
Yes. All right. So, long story short, your answer is, I know what you mean, Emil. That's really not a thing in America.
It might well be in San Francisco or New York City or somewhere like that where you would have pedestrianized areas. But we live out in the sort of countryside. So at the moment, it's not really an option for me.
All right. Next up, we move on to Melanie, who has a suggestion. She knows how everyone can see all the great dog pictures, so we're back to the dog pictures.
I can see that
Save
dog.
all of them each month and put them on the Instagram account in one post.
Oh.
So I forget who was earlier suggested Patreon. Melanie suggests Instagram. And she now is giving me some Instagram tips.
Ooh.
And says it's a win-win. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could. What do you think?
I don't understand how you can do more than one picture in Instagram without it becoming a story. And then a story is like has this finite time that it's on there. I can't figure it out.
I don't know.
But she says you can post up to 10 photos in one post. Oh, just use the icon to the extreme right.
People don't need to. They don't come to this podcast for
Instagram tips,
for Instagram tutorials.
Okay.
But Jen's gonna read that, and
scroll down.
All right, tell you what, folks. If you want, if enough people continue to send pictures of dogs and say that they're fine with me posting those pictures, I will do a dog summary to be associated with future episodes. But I don't think it's cool.
No, you can't do it.
I can't do it without people's permission. I mean, I can. Obviously, you can't stop me. I'll do it if I want to. But I'm not going to. So, in the future, folks, if you send in a picture of your dogs to questions@rahdo.com, if you could put a note in saying you're cool with the dog being posted on, like you said, probably Instagram, I think makes more sense than Patreon, then I'll look into it. But then we move on to Melanie's question, since there was such a groundswell of support for this. I guess it must have been the last one where they got to listen to you for 45 seconds just saying, ooh, oh, that one's cute too, and it got old quick.
Okay, fair enough.
Alrighty. A couple of questions ago.
Do you know what you should do? Is you should post the picture before you post the podcast. And then people can be gazing upon the dogs as they listen.
I see. Yes. A couple of episodes ago, I described in more detail how Jen and I came to take infrequent showers and wash our hair less by using natural products and not detergents and deodorants. What do we do for laundry? Do you also try to avoid typical laundry detergent, for example, Tide? Do you also typically wear your clothes more times so they are not washed in detergent as often? Since my kids, now married, 23, and
23 and 16-year-old.
Right. Were little,
yeah.
I trained them to always wear pajamas only one time, even if they took a bath or shower before bedtime and were clean before putting on their PJs. Of course, this creates a lot of laundry.
Oh, dear.
And then here's the Yorkie once again.
Cute!
At 9 months old, good old yo-yo with an adorable beach ball.
That's just so darn cute.
All right, so...
Oh my gosh. Well,
laundry. We do use Tide Pods.
Yes. So when we moved back from Europe, I think I just fell back into Tide because that's something my mom always used. And it's just one of those decisions you don't actually make. You just sort of continue on with.
Well, that's the problem. When you go into an American grocery store and you're provided with 10,000 options.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You do not need to sit and...
Yeah. You just look for anything you can do to filter stuff down. You said, oh, that's what my mom used. I'll use it.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, you were about to say we did something else in Europe?
Yeah, in Europe, I did much better with trying different eco brands and all of that because I didn't have any sort of inbred preference on that. However, I think that now, and unfortunately, let me put that unfortunate somewhere else. We live with his mom now. And unfortunately, she likes chemicals. Yeah. She likes, oh my God, this woman puts in 3 or 4 dryer sheets with her dryer. And that is after she's washed her clothes with a fabric softener and an OxyClean and a Tide Pod.
Yep. And every time there's some new thing that rolls out, she has it come out yet? Is it at the Walmart yet? I'm like, no, Mom, they're not available here yet. Can you get it on Amazon? I got to try this one.
Yeah, and she's like 3 weeks of this because, of course, they advertise it before it's available. But anyway, so she loves her chemicals, and I just have kind of had to step back a little bit because I, of course, I'm looking at all of these. Oh, you can use a little sheet of dehydrated detergent, and that cleans your clothes just as well. You don't get the water packaging issues with shipping and all that additional carbon. So unfortunately I live with somebody right now who is a bit of a chemical nut and I can't stop her from doing this, but in the future we will be doing eco detergents and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How often do you wash your clothes?
I think I always wear stuff at least twice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll wear the same clothes until they stink. as it happens. Shirts, shorts, no, not socks and underwear.
Of course
or,
not.
or those will stink really quick. So I think that the same rule applies, basically. So yeah, I mean, I've been like that for years as well.
Yeah, and actually early in our marriage, he washed and dried a red lipstick in my a white skirt, a big white cotton skirt I had that I hadn't taken out, fair enough, but he didn't look for it, and it ruined a whole bunch of clothes. So early in our marriage, there was a distinct separation of his and hers laundry that went on. So I don't do anything with your laundry. Although now that we're back in the States, I guess we do it together now, don't we? I've been doing it.
Yeah.
So there's that. But so I don't know what you do with your stuff, because I just really am not hooked into it.
I don't know. I maybe run laundry once every couple of weeks, because I go through my laundry so slow. Except for socks and underwear.
Actually, you know what we do a lot of washing of? It's the blankets on our couch, because the dogs are always on that, and it's just so much easier to pull a blanket off and wash that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, and like our top blanket on our bed, we wash that a lot.
All right. The t-shirt I am wearing right now, as we film this, I have had this t-shirt for 20 years. I got this during the Microsoft Halloween thing. And it's still practically new. It has no extreme wear.
Oh, is that the one with the front the scully thing on
I mean,
it?
the silk screen image from the video game is kind of worn away, but the shirt is still brand new. Because this shirt probably gets washed, even when I was wearing it regularly. I mean, because I don't know. I mean, I suppose if I were a construction worker or I was working up a sweat all the time, things would be different. But I have, for my entire professional career, had very low intensity, low sweat factor jobs. And, if it doesn't stink, I'll wear it again.
Or if it's not stained.
Yeah, or if it's, if I spill chocolate ice cream on it, of course, it'll get washed. Yeah. But that's probably the thing that's most likely. And you said you're not as extreme as me, but you'll usually wear something 2 or 3 times before you consider washing it as well.
I think so. I mean, again, and I'm not out gardening in it or sweating in it or whatever. It's just, Yeah. Yep. If it needs it, it gets washed. If it doesn't, I guess it doesn't.
Yep. So, there's another example of how we are pretty extreme in our low impact of the world. I mean, me more so than Jen, but Jen certainly more so than you, Melanie.
Yeah.
With the
I can't even
fresh
imagine
PJs every night.
Changing. And when we go to hotels, we don't have them change our sheets.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
night.
We put up the please. You don't need to do anything. It's fine. We can use the same towel more than once.
Yep.
It's okay.
I know for some people that's just a super duper luxury, and that's okay. You're doing a one-time thing or whatever. But I don't know. It's not necessary. It doesn't add to my enjoyment of life. So why do it?
Yeah. And speaking of towels, Jen will leave the same towel hanging on a rack well past its overdue date, I think, in that you start to get the smell. My mom and I are starting to wonder if Jen is literally incapable of smelling that kind of sour wetsuit smell because she doesn't notice it on the sponges, in the sink. Because Jen, no, we can microwave that sponge and then put it in the next washing thing, and we can and they'll say savable. We can use that sponge for 3 years. And it's like, Jesus, if you get within 5 feet of it, you'll stink for days. Why do you not smell this? What is wrong with you? Are you literally missing a gene that doesn't let you smell that intense sour smell?
I don't stink, do I?
No, you don't, but your hands will stink after you use those sponges that you refuse to toss.
Maybe you need to give me a sniff over every morning if I don't have a stink gene smeller.
No. It's just this one particular odor that you seem to be incapable of registering because you leave those things out there and we will try to throw them away. And Jen will find them in the garbage and say, no, this is still good. And then she'll throw it in with the next wash cycle. And it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to have my hands stink up to high heaven for the next week again. Actually, because Jen just went dumpster diving for a dish sponge.
I didn't dumpster dive. It was sitting right on the top.
Yes.
Okay, anyway, I was just at this this thing this weekend, and they were doing eco products, and there is something called, I think it was a Danish sponge. Yeah. It might not be Danish. It might just be that's top of my mind.
Because of the mill.
But basically, it's like this, I'm going to say 4x6 or 7 inch compressed bit of I don't know, textiles, and it's printed on it, like a screen print or whatever. And apparently it said it was good. You could use it as much as you would 7 rolls of paper towel. That is how sturdy this sort of Danish sponge is.
Okay.
So I thought about buying like 5 of them, and then they could just always be on rotation.
Well, did you?
Well, they were $6 a pop. So I thought, well...
there's the true issue.
I'm going to research this a little bit more.
When it gets back to the earlier question about how do you rectify your distaste for consumerism versus your love of legacy games, those are not Jen's concerns. Jen's, how does she rectify her love for reusables with her distaste for spending money is basically the problem.
Well, I was just also trying to recognize that you and your mom have an opinion in this house as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And
I appreciate it.
I'll just go online and buy them right now.
I mean, do you disagree?
Shamed me.
I mean, it's just you never seem to notice, and you think those sponges are fine.
I actually just put those sponges in bleach water today. If you go and look right now in the utility room, there is a bucket of bleach water with the sponges in.
I'll wear the same shirt for 10 years. Jen will use the same
hand.
sponge for 10 years.
Smell my hand. You smell the bleach on it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. There. You guys, it's just, I'm the only one that cleans them. Why does it always have to fall to me? If you guys have the problem, you put it in the bleach water.
Or we could just use another one.
That is not very responsible.
Indeed. Alrighty. Moving on to Marco. What are Jen's and my top favorite Disney live action movies based on animated classics?
Just a second, look it up. It's Danish sponge.
But first, we have to resolve the Danish sponge cake conundrum.
Cake. No, I don't want cake. I just want the Danish sponge.
All right. If it in
think
fact
it was
was
that.
a
Yes,
Danish
it is.
sponge.
See?
Yes.
So they're just
3
these little
bluebird Swedish
sponge,
reusable
maybe.
things. Yeah, we'll get some. Let's do it.
All right. Well, here's a set of 3 for 14. So that's quite a savings.
That's you got a third one free if you order that one.
Yeah. I'll look at them later with all the colors.
We all have our hang-ups, and Jen's is spending money, which is good. It's why we are where we are today. Honey, your life's too short. If you see a Danish sponge and you want it, just buy it.
You know, maybe the backers would buy me a Danish sponge.
There you go. Yes, they would have supported you buying that Danish sponge.
Yes.
But anyway, Honey Pie.
Yeah.
What are our top 5
we're gonna
Disney
call it
live
Swedish dishcloths in
Swedish
case anybody
dishcloths.
wants to go out there and look at it.
Okay.
So yes, back to the questions.
So your favorite, although I think there are only 5. Disney has been making live action versions of their animated films.
Lion King.
They've done Lion King. They've done
Jungle.
Aladdin. They've done Jungle Book. They've done Beauty and the Beast, and they've done Mulan.
We haven't seen Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We saw it with Mom. So that's 5. Are there more than that? I don't know that there are. I think maybe there's some lesser known ones. Oh, like they just did the not the Fox and the Hound, not the Beauty and the Beast, the rolling the dogs who roll the meatball with their nose. Lady and the Tramp.
Lady and the Tramp.
They did Lady and the Tramp, so that's 6. But that was a direct-to-video one.
I think I remember seeing that one.
Yes, we saw it.
Okay.
On the Disney Plus. So, Honey Pie, which ones have you liked? Or actually, he wants you to count them down. Thing is, we've hardly liked any of them. They have tough. So here's the thing. Jen saw the Jungle Book in the theater with her dad to recreate one of her fondest childhood memories of seeing the Jungle Book, the original animated film, with her father when she was a young girl. And it's like one of her most cherished memories. And when the new one came out, she's like, let's go see it, Dad. And she was hugely disappointed, as I recall.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we didn't see it in the theater because of just the way the timing worked with wherever we were at that time. But I saw it with them in their house on their big screen TV.
Yep.
So.
And she was hugely disappointed.
Yeah.
And she can't even remember the fact that we saw Beauty and the Beast. So I guess that's going to be at the bottom of her list. Because she at least remembers seeing the other ones. I imagine her number 4 would be Jungle Book because it did not live up to the nostalgia of what she was hoping to recreate from her childhood with her dad. Number 3... So I'm going to assume for Jen, because she doesn't like doing this and she's just sitting there silently, I'm going to say her number 3 is probably Mulan, because
We saw it recently, but I didn't.
well,
think
everybody saw it recently,
Oh.
and it does some very cool and interesting things, but doesn't quite live up to its predecessor. Number 2, now I've forgotten which ones there are. Could you just do a search for live action Disney remake, and then they'll all be right in front of me, so I don't have to do this from memory because this is difficult. Live action, no, it has to be remake because they have many live action movies. There we go. Alrighty, so a list of them. Here we are, and it's just right there. No, that's not it. All right, theatrical. All right, The Jungle Book, 101 Dalmatians, which we have not seen with Glenn Close. Alice in Wonderland, I don't think we've seen either of those. Maleficent, don't remember it. Alice Through the Looking Glass, only saw the first one, didn't remember it. Didn't see the Cinderella one. Christopher Robin, that's cheating. It is not a remake. Dumbo, we haven't seen. Lion King and Aladdin. All right, so number 2 would be Lion King, and number 1 would be Aladdin.
Okay.
I don't think Jen has any opinion at all. Jen does not have the gene to be able to rank things, so that's really my ranking. Honestly, the only one of all of them, and we haven't seen all of them, but the only one of any of them that I thought was actually worthy was Aladdin. I thought Aladdin was genuinely good. Not as good as the original, but it lived up to its pedigree. It did new and interesting things. It had fresh takes. It was, evocative of the original. It didn't pale in comparison, etc., etc. Of course, now all these movies have a huge burden to overcome in that they are having to compete with our memories of seeing these movies.
Yep.
And that's implicitly unfair. But you know what? They continue to choose to do it, so that's how I think they'd break down for me, and I don't think Jen is capable of breaking them down.
Yep.
Because she probably doesn't remember any of them,
No,
because within a
bit.
week of seeing them, she's forgotten almost everything. Do you remember who the genie was?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
But would you have remembered if you hadn't just seen it?
I didn't want to say it was the one with the black genie. Because I thought that might be a little politically incorrect, but I will capitalize the B.
Yes, there. So that just goes to show Jen did not remember who it was, but remembered that it was a black actor. It was Will Smith, of course. All right, so yeah, Jen just does not have any memory at all for movies. She'll forget 90% of a movie within a month. So that's my ranking. What are our favorite Disney movies, period? Animated movies. Disney and Pixar.
Well, of course. There's the loads of them. Loads.
Pick your favorite.
My favorite. Oh my God, I can't do that. I can't do it.
Just do a search for Disney, Pixar animated film. You'll see a little list of them, and you'll just pick the one that jumps out at you.
I'm just going to close my eye and think of what I think. Obviously, Jungle Book, because I have a great memory of that. Little Mermaid is also one I really loved. It was right when we started dating, and we named our first dog Scuttle.
Which was the seagull in Little Mermaid?
I love them all. All right, I'll get a list out.
Yeah,
It's too much.
Yeah, just do a Google search for Disney Pixar animated films, and they'll just be in a nice little line. It'll be easy. All right, here we go. And
I love Toy Story, of course.
you got to pick one.
Oh, I have to pick one?
Yeah, well, he wants your favorite. He didn't want your top 5. He just wanted your favorite, period.
Oh, Inside Out.
That is also Marco's favorite.
Well done, Marco. Excellent work. I love Mulan. Mulan's probably one of my favorite of the, girl. Anyway, I liked Brave.
One of your favorites?
No, I just really like her red hair. Monsters, Inc. Loved that one. Yeah. I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
And Aladdin.
And Aladdin? Right, so that is, but you're sticking by Inside Out.
Up.
As your absolute favorite.
Up.
Up beats Inside Out?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say Up. Alrighty. And for both of it, it's because of the first 10 minutes, and it's because of the talking dog. Because of Doug. And we can't think about it much because we'll both start crying. What are your thoughts, Honey Pie, on Star Trek Lower Decks?
Oh, dear God. It was a small bone of contention in our house until he just decided to go ahead and watch it. I will watch it. I will. But I don't love it.
I think it is some of the best Star Trek that has ever existed. I think it is so amazingly good. It is by far my favorite show of the year. I think it's incredible how much it does so much in a 22-minute time frame. Kind of goes to show that Star Trek maybe should have always been a half-hour show because there's no padding. It's juggling so many things at once. It has a lot of heart, and because it's just compressed. It's it's just compressed Star Trek. And, it has great animation, it has great humor, it has great characters, and it still hits on the underlying themes of Star Trek. I think it's incredible. I think it's some of the best Trek we have ever had, and consistently. The most recent episode, where Mariner really has to come to terms with what drives her, was just mind-boggling. The way they use it's incredible. It's the best. It is some of the best of Trek that's ever been. Alrighty. And Jen fundamentally does not like it. And she can't articulate why. She says she doesn't like Mariner as a character.
No, I do like Mariner as a character.
No, you said you don't like... Well, then why do you fundamentally not like it? And it's like pulling teeth to get her to try to watch it, and I eventually just gave up, and I've watched them all. I've watched every episode multiple times. I watch them, and I will turn around and watch them again immediately because they're so good. And I've never done that with any Star Trek ever. So it's incredible. Alrighty, moving along. Coming back to I'm assuming this is, the Assassin's Creed, not air conditioning question, because you just said AC. Ubisoft is often criticized for using the same game mechanisms, climb a tower to reveal part of a map, clear out a camp for certain stuff, and by now it's called the open world Ubisoft formula. As a former game designer yourself, do you think it's lazy game design and publishers should come up with mainly new ideas for sequels in a popular game series, or is it okay to recycle old stuff because for some reason these games were popular? Why not use the same tricks again and again? There is a reason that if you go to a live concert, if the band does not play their classics, there'll be a mini riot. Yeah, okay, we waited through all your new stuff. Can you please do Hotel California now? Or whatever. People want more of what they like. And the developers of Assassin's Creed are giving players what they want. If they don't do that, they will be punished, quite frankly. And so I am certain the developers of Assassin's Creed would love nothing more than to stop repeating themselves. But the audiences, and this is true in all creative endeavors, have proven over and over and over again that they will often, dangerously often, reject when you stray from the formula that made the audience fall in love with it in the first place. So no, I don't think it's lazy at all. I guarantee you the developers of the Assassin's Creed series have a lot of ideas and they do their best to try to work things in wherever possible. But they realize they are literally shackled to their success, and to veer too far from it would be their undoing. So that's my opinion. I could be wrong, but that has certainly been what I have discovered over the years in my time.
And also, in your time, that's all that the publishers wanted you to keep doing. Mm-hmm. So you actually had to switch companies to be able to make something different.
That is true. Okay. Andre listened to my second interview with Meepleville and thought I'd like some data that's helped Andre shape his thinking about guns in America. Andre has a link that takes me to a data-laden Vox article. The name of the Vox article, if people want to find it, is U.S. Gun Violence Statistics Maps Charts. Just do a Google search for Vox, U.S. Gun Violence Maps Charts, and you'll find this article. The bottom line of the article is that the data shows gun ownership is what's driving gun deaths. Andre has debated this with his friends that are Second Amendment friendly, but not necessarily gun nuts. They don't like that the data takes into account suicides, but I argue that all lives matter. And you're aware that that's a loaded term, but you're obviously using it as a pun. And 40,000 deaths a day. The cost of this right is 40,000 lives is too much, in Andre's opinion. Okay, Andre didn't have a question in there, but so he was just sharing some stuff with me, but I do think that's worth pointing out. And for folks who don't know, you can do a search for Rahdo Meepleville guns. I did a 90-minute interview talking about gun violence with Tim of Meepleville Cafe. It was my second appearance I did with him. And I know a lot of people were kind of surprised because it seems like Tim was taking a very pro-gun stance throughout. And Tim was basically just playing devil's advocate. I mean, he didn't agree with me as strongly. I mean, I was surprised by some of his stances, and he really did have. He felt that mental health issues in America were. He generally thinks that's the greater issue, and I don't think he was persuaded by my. Yeah, but you know what? It's really hard to fix people. It's very easy to fix guns because guns are inanimate objects. They have a very simple solution, and which I gave dozens of them. And Andre, I will definitely check this article out in case I find myself in that situation again, because I have to admit, I was caught so flat-footed by Tim when I was, having that conversation, because I expected he was either going to be, really hardcore into guns, and I was kind of ready for that, or I expected he was going to be on my side, but he was very much straddling the fence, and it would have been handy, I think, to have some more hard data that you have now provided me. So thank you very much for that. And for anybody else who's interested in it, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic reading. I'm a big fan of Vox. People say, oh, Vox.com? Yeah, that's that liberal, left-leaning hack. It's all fake news. Here's the deal, folks. There are plenty of online bias trackers that keep track of media bias, and Vox is definitely left-leaning, but they are also consistently ranked as high level of accuracy and truthfulness. It's always the right-leaning media that when you actually fact-check them, everything falls apart. So, don't dismiss it offhand because Vox is a left-leaning rag. It's a left-leaning rag that happens to tell the truth. But anyway, sorry. Thank you for Andre. I'll check that out later. Okay, but now Andre is back with probably a question in there. Yes, how do Jen and I plan to vote this year? It's complicated since we live with someone that's high risk. Do you plan to vote by mail? If so, does your state allow and track your ballot? Have your company votes be counted? Yes, we live in Washington State. We have been here 2 years now. We have voted a few times in a few different things. The congressional race in 2018 and some more recent local stuff. Basically, Washington State is arguably the best state in the union when it boils right down to it by a lot of metrics, and one of them is they have had very successful by-mail voting forever. That's not quite what we do. We get our ballot in the mail, we fill it out at our leisure, and on voting day, all we have to do is drive down to our local community center, say, hi, here it is, sealed envelope, drop it in a box, and we're done. And it's awesome. If we wanted to, we could mail it, but I don't know, there's kind of a ritual that we kind of like actually going down and, getting the little I voted sticker and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how we're going to do it, and I feel so bad for so many Americans who don't have just this simplest, most basic civil right afforded to them in a way that is as easy and approachable as it should be. Okay.
Actually, I'm thinking about registering to be a poll worker. That didn't sound good. Okay, let me rephrase that. An election poll worker.
You want to volunteer.
I want to volunteer to help people. I don't know if you just stand there and say, go over there or what, but anyway.
You could, but I'm telling you, if you want to, you'd probably want to go do it in Portland because there's no reason to do it in our town because every time I've gone in there, it's everybody does it. Everybody just does their ballot at home and just drops it off on the day. They do have a voting machine set up and nobody's using it because nobody should have to use it because it's so easy to vote at home and then either put it in the mail or, there's also, that's Oregon that does the ballot pickup points. I don't know if Washington does that. Actually, I don't think they have any in our town, but maybe they do in Vancouver and Seattle and bigger cities. In our town, there's not one. It's just you go down to the community center, and there's plenty of parking. It's easy to get in and out. But, I don't think... I think you would basically just sit there all day and just say, hi, thanks for voting a lot, as people just come in and drop an envelope into a box.
Okay. I actually did check out
yes
the what's going on in Clark County. That's a funny thing. I'm just looking back on my... Here we go. The link for Clark County, Washington drop-off locations.
All right.
So...
Right, which one of them... Oh, yeah. Oh, so, okay, so Washington State does have the secure boxes as well. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. So...
And so look, there's 1, 2, 3... In just Clark County, 22 locations.
Yeah.
Vancouver, another 10.
Yeah.
12, anyway.
Yep. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Well, actually, you know what? Andre continued because he has a soapbox. He says, feel free to cut. I'm not going to.
All right.
Andre, my platform is your platform. Andre served in the military for 5.5 years. People would often thank him for his service. I would challenge them to do their bit and vote. This is our country, and we are called to service. A bare minimum for citizens is to vote. If you're worried that you don't know enough to vote for the railroad commissioner, that's a statewide office here in Texas, then your responsibility to your country is to spend some time every 2 years to get smart and go vote.
Woo! Well done, Andre.
I agree, Andre. Thank you for your service. And I think, that should extend beyond military service. I mean, thank you for your service. Thank you for voting. It just needs to become second nature. Coming here from Malta, where Malta has one of the best voluntary voter turnouts in the world. It's like high 80s, low 90%.
Yeah, I was going to say 90%.
Now, in part, that's because it's one of the tiniest countries in the world, too. But even still, you have a highly motivated, well-educated populace. Engaged populace, yes, who are very, very, and it's depressing to come back here and you can barely get 1 in 5 people to be bothered. And so all these elections are decided by, just the most diehard. Well said, Andre, better than I could have. Okay, moving on to Darren, who wonders, do either of us play an instrument or sing, and have either of us been in a band?
Wow. You don't want to hear me sing. When I was young, I played flute and a bit of clarinet. Mom made us both learn a little bit of piano and violin, also when we were quite young. I was in the band in junior high, marching band.
Mm-hmm. Playing the clarinet again?
No, the flute.
The flute, okay.
Yeah. Basically, I just taught myself clarinet one day, but didn't ever play it in the band.
All right.
Yep, that's me. Oh, and I have my grandfather's harmonica that has made every move with us, and someday I know I'm going to sit down and learn how to play it.
All right. Jen's very musical, and Jen actually has an incredibly beautiful voice for singing. Every once in a while, she'll just kind of do something under her breath when she thinks nobody can hear, and she just pitch perfect matches, whatever pop song it is. And Jen just has a real hang up because on her 21st birthday, a friend of hers took her to a karaoke bar, and she got very drunk and decided she was going to sing "When I'm 64" by the Beatles because she knew the song really well, and it's an easy song. And it's not a particularly challenging song when it boils right down to it. It doesn't have a lot of range, and so she thought it'd be fine. And apparently she bombed big time.
Yeah.
I suspect it was more because she was drunk than any innate skill or lack thereof. But she has had a hang up about it. Because she was so thoroughly, to the marrow of her being, mortified by that performance.
It's one of those where the crowd goes silent and everybody just kind of looks around awkwardly.
Yep.
One of those moments.
Yep. I'm sure that's what it looked like from her perspective.
My very drunken perspective.
I briefly went to public school before I was homeschooled, and there was some requirement to learn some instrument that had you breathing into it, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I'll say it was a clarinet. I didn't take to it. I think I tried to pick up a guitar for like all of 10 minutes, realized, oh, wow, this is really hard. Yeah, pass. And so, no, I don't have any musical acumen, not because I couldn't do it. I think I actually have a pretty good rhythm, but I just have no interest because it's a lot of work. And yeah, I really like to sing. I don't know that I'm any good or not. I certainly have no training, but I have no shame either. So
yeah, he will belt it out.
Yeah, I always sing to the back row whenever I am called to do so. And Jen hasn't jumped in to say, no, you're great, which makes me think I must be terrible.
I love it. That's one of the ways he won my heart. Will you sing it? Do you want to sing it now?
I'm sure I've done it on the podcast before.
But this is a whole new group. They probably haven't heard you sing yet.
All right.
Okay, this is how he won my heart.
There's an old C.W. McCall song. C.W. McCall, for those who don't remember, he was a big country western singer in the 70s, and he did a lot of songs about truck driving. Convoy is his biggest hit of all time, with Rubber Ducka and Big Ben, About to Put the Hammer Down. But one of his lesser-known songs, because I grew up listening to country and western from when I was 5 to when I was probably 13. That's all we listened to. One of his lesser-known songs is, I don't remember the name of it. Am I going to sing the whole thing?
Yes!
All right, I haven't done this for years.
If everybody was here, they'd be going, yes, yes, yes. Sing, 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 sing.
I'm still a little verklempt from an earlier question.
I need a lighter.
Okay.
Oops, sorry, I just bumped the microphone.
And did you almost knock it over? Oh dear. Is it falling? Yeah,
No.
okay, it's fine.
Okay.
Gotta watch that boom. It's a bit top heavy.
I was raising my arms like I had a lighter.
Well, let me get a bit closer to the microphone
Okay.
because my voice is really terrible from far away and it's just artificially boosted. Okay. Let me get a drink of water first.
You guys are in for a treat.
It's really, I need to undersell this. Jen is way overselling it. This is just a dumb little silly novelty song.
This is one of those things like seeing Jungle Book with your dad in the theater.
Alrighty. Well, I was thumbing through the want ads in the Shelby County Tribune when this classified advertisement caught my eye. It said, take immediate delivery on this 57 Chevrolet half-ton pickup truck. We'll sell or swap for a hide-a-bed and $35. Call 140-ring-2 and ask for Bob. Well, I called Bob up on the telephone. He said, hello, this is Bob speaking. I said, this here the Bob got the pickup truck for sale? He said, yeah. I said, where are you? He said, 14 East on County 12. Turn right on the one-lane gravel road. You can park in the yard. Beware of the dog. Wipe your feet off. Knock 3 times and bring your billfold. Well, I turned down East on County 12, turned right on the one-lane gravel road, and I parked in the yard, and a German Shepherd come out and grab on my leg. Well, shoot.
Beat him off with the tire.
No. I always forget this part because it's the animal cruelty part.
I know.
Well, oh man. You know what? I can't remember. I've gotten completely... I was not prepared for that. But anyway, that's about half the song, and things go downhill from there as he has an adventure trying to buy a 57 Chevrolet half-ton pickup truck. It's really not a singing song. It's more of a talking song, so it's not really showing my range. And now Jen's looking up the... now, you're going to YouTube? So you're going to have C.W. Call singing himself?
No.
All right.
Actually, I don't think I've ever heard him sing it.
No, you probably haven't. It's classified as the name of the song. All right. No, so you're just going to help me out because you want me to continue?
Yeah.
All right. Let me find it.
It was there. Oh, no.
Yeah. Wow, it's not even done in lyric form because... All right.
Stop it. It's right here.
All right.
Parts of the jaw and the
Right on my leg. Then I knocked 3 times and wiped my feet. The dog let go and the screen door opened. And Bob come out and said, what do you want? I said, come to see your truck. He said, follow me. Come on, Frank. Dog's name's Frank. Well, we all went past the chicken house, through the hog pen, down the factory shed, and then round up and back in a barn field of cow pies. And sitting right there in a pool of grease was a half-ton Chevy pickup truck with a 1960s license plate and bumper sticker said, vote for Dick, and a drilling box full of rusty parts. And Bob said, what do you think? Well, I kicked the tire and got in a seat and sat on a petrified apple core and found a bunch of field mice living in the glove compartment. He said, your shaft's bent, your rear end leaks. You can fix her quick with an oily rag. Use a nail to start her. I lost the key. Don't pay any mind to that whirring sound. She needs a little oil, but outside that, she's cherry. And I said, what do you take? He said, what do you got? I said, $48.15. Said, you got a deal sign here? I'll go get the title and a can full of gas. I put a nail in a slot and fired her up. She coughed and belched up a bunch of smoke, and I backed her right through the hog pen into the yard. Well, Bob jumped in and bit my leg, and I beat him off with a crowbar. He jumped on out, and the door fell off, and the left front tire went flat. I jacked it up and patched the tube, and Frank tore a piece of my shirt off. Then Bob come out, called him off, said, you better get on out of here. So I went right on the one-lane gravel road, went 14 west on County 12, took 2 full quarts, quarter-weight oil just to get her to the Conoco station. I pulled up to the regular pump, then Harold Sachs and his kid came out, and he said, I seen better stuff in a junkyard. Where'd you ever get that truck? I said, that's a long story, Harold. I was thumbing through the one end, so that's it. So I only had to look up that one line because there's the 2 encounters with the dog, and I always get them mixed up. I think them beat him off the crowbar happens at the first one, but no, it's just he wipes his feet 3 times, the dog lets go, and so I always get that part mixed up. And I think at one point I mixed up Bob and Frank, quite frankly. But you get the idea.
Don't pay no mind to that whirring sound.
Yeah. Dad's favorite line of that song was always, she's cherry.
Yeah, she's cherry.
Yeah, yeah, he would just laugh out loud when I would sing it for him. All right. So now you're going to look at see if I've been singing it wrong all these years.
I'm going to listen to C.J. McCall sing it at some point in my life. But
I think I'm singing it a bit faster than he sings it as well.
Oh.
Because I think over the years it's just gotten faster and faster and faster. Because I'm just trying to get through it for the millionth time. So No, that's not really showing off my vocal range there, but that's country and western rap, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, so where were we? Oh, yes. Have either of us been in a band? No, but I performed in rock band many times. When I was at, not Eidetic, Splash Damage, we would do a lot of rock band and, what's the other one? Guitar Hero over the lunch breaks, and I always rocked the mic. Because everybody else was just always very quiet and timid and just kind of muttered along with it, whereas, I'd totally Bon Jovi. Right. What is your favorite movie?
Sense and Sensibility with Hugh Grant. Emma Thompson.
Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in Joe vs. the Volcano. What is the best and worst thing you've done to or for someone? Was the best thing you've ever done to somebody or for somebody? Answer the question.
I can't answer that off the top of my head, and furthermore, I probably wouldn't want to say what the worst thing I'd ever done to somebody was.
What was the worst thing you've ever done to somebody?
I don't know.
You're dodging the question? You're going to take the fifth?
God, what a question.
It's a tough one. Honestly, I'm trying to think myself. I'm sure I've done many good things, and I've probably done a few bad things as well. Jeez. Yeah, I'm sorry, Darren. That one's too deep. That's just hard. That's quickly review your entire life and every interaction you've ever had with anyone.
Yes.
And pick the best one and the worst one.
Yeah.
That's tough. Sorry.
You tell us yours.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Smart guy. Two-way street pal. All right. Moving right along. Darren watched The Great, which is the Catherine TV show. After hearing we liked it, he loves it. They've rewrote history quite a bit. And that's pretty self-evident. Anybody in case, don't think going in that it's going to be any kind of accurate representation of the true history. But it was still fun, says Darren. What are your thoughts on the debate about whether it should have been in Russian or at least Russian accents? Or is it okay that it was in English and everybody had British accents?
Well, you think about it. Everybody, all of the royalty was all mixing up anyway. Who knows really what their accents were at the time? I mean, your sister was marrying his cousin, and all the Spanish were coming over, and the French and the Germans and the Russians, and everybody was all intermarrying and intermingling and all that. So I'm just going to go with it. How about that?
Okay.
I'm talking about the royalty, that is,
Sure.
Because you had to stay up at your level.
Yes. Okay. I don't have a problem with it at all. It's a pretty common trope that using in an English-speaking film, using a British accent implicitly nobilizes, it assigns a level of nobility. Is that fair? Not necessarily. Is it anachronistic? Sure. But it's something everybody just implicitly understands. It's why the Empire in Star Wars speaks with a British accent and the Rebels speak without one. And it's just an easy way, because honestly, I think the most important thing is ensuring that the show has the widest accessibility possible, so that more people can enjoy it. Because I do think it not only is a hilarious show, but I think it's a really great show with important underlying messages. It tells really human stories. And I would hate for people who might have otherwise enjoyed it to dismiss it because, one, because they'd have to read subtitles. But two, is it, you could have said, but they could have adopted Russian accents and all the actors could have trained in that. And sure, but I don't know.
I'm watching Madam President right now. No, Madam Secretary.
Madam Secretary.
And there is a character who is a Russian. And it's nice that he has a Russian accent.
Yes, but that's because he is literally speaking with a Russian accent in English to English-speaking characters.
Yeah.
And he spends a fair deal of time speaking Russian as well.
Yes.
I know. The Great, everybody should be speaking in Russian.
Yeah.
But we're just hearing him in English, so we don't have to read.
It's just our universal translators working.
There you go. I don't know. It seems to me to be as artificial to have them speak in English with a Russian accent. I'd be totally fine if they did, but in all honesty, I would bet the show would suffer because the actors who have an easier, and they're all English actors, they're all English-speaking actors, and they have an easier time adopting a British accent than a Russian accent, I suspect it would affect their performances. I suspect they've been trained in English eloquence, and the show might suffer a bit for it. And while I appreciate it would be a nod to people who do natively speak Russian to be a bit more respectful, and I'm totally sensitive to that, by the same token, there's nothing respectful about the show. The show is very much sending up all of these characters and being very irreverent. And so, I mean, I'd be fine if they'd done it, but I have no problem that they didn't. I don't think it's a particular issue because it's such a well-established trope. And if there was a prestige comedy Russian production going into the day-to-day lives of the founding fathers, let's say, in the 1700s, if there was a Russian production with Russian actors all speaking in Russian, playing Alexander Hamilton or whatever, I would not be at all bothered that they did not try to adopt English accents in their Russian pronunciation of the words. So I think it's okay. Alrighty. You've mentioned an old colleague, Connie Booth, a few times. Is that Connie Booth of Faulty Towers fame? No. I'm sure if you just do a search for Sony Connie Booth, she's kind of come out of the woodwork more recently. She's always been the power behind the scenes. She's always wanted to stay secretive and not become a celebrity herself, but she should be. She's one of the most important people in the history of modern video games, or history of video games, period, quite frankly. Alrighty. I'm not sure if you lived in Malta at the same time, but did you ever see or meet Billy Connolly while you were there? I had no idea that Billy Connolly lived in Malta, so I'm assuming no. We must have ships passing in the night. We did one time drive by the house that Tom Hanks was staying in while he was there filming the Captain Phillips movie, and they weren't filming that day, so he might have been in the house. That's a possibility, but that's as close as we've come. And while we were in Malta to anything. Let's see here. What? Right. Oh, okay. And then Darren goes on. I saw this Black Lives Matter thing a while back. I think it perfectly sums up the phrase Black Lives Matter, why it is important, and doesn't need to be amended with things like as well. I thought it's an argument that I should have in my arsenal. Thank you, Darren. It's attached JPEG. Let's see, I'm going to read it because I'm sure this is important that everybody normalizes and internalizes. Oh, and I have seen this. I saw this on Facebook. I say Black Lives Matter because all didn't cover black men when they said all. It didn't cover black when they said all men are created equal. I say Black Lives Matter because all didn't cover black when they said with liberty and justice for all. I say Black Lives Matter because they're still struggling with the definition of all.
Yes.
Yeah. Good one, man. Okay. And I think that was it for Darren. And I've accidentally minimized, and now I need to get back to the message. Okay. Oh, and then there's a photo of Diesel.
Oh.
Honey, it's our second photo. Oh. Although there were some wonderful photos of Charlie, which Jen saw between takes. Yeah. Charlie was adorable. Oh. That's Diesel. What do you think of Diesel?
Well, he's lovely. Of course he is.
He looks a bit cheeky, that dog.
I like his cocked eyebrow.
Yes, that's what I'm responding to. He's definitely got some personality. He's also got a little bit of poundage. It looks around the
a few more walks.
Diesel.
Needed.
Come on, buddy. Stop gorging. Alrighty. It's apparently Labrador, Staffordshire, but doesn't know exactly what else. Don't care what breed he is. The vet knows. It's all that matters. All right, so Gerard is here. Hoping everybody's in good spirits. Listen to my Meepleville. Oh, this is a different thing about the Meepleville gun violence video I did. And one of the things I talked about in that was how vehicles can severely injure, just like guns, and that it can go with everything if not used. Okay, so yeah, I brought up the it's a fairly common anti-gun argument is vehicles and licensing and all that. So, don't get me wrong, guns do a lot of damage, but Gerard was curious because dogs, pit bulls in general, get a bad rap because if and when they bite, they leave a mark and there might be consequences for it, but a smaller dog would nip and it doesn't leave a big mark, and it's just an annoyance. Was wondering what our take on that would be. So this is nothing about gun violence or vehicles, but just in general, pit bulls getting a bad rap because when they bite, they leave a mark, whereas a dog could be just as vicious, Pekingese, a Chihuahua could be just as vicious or probably even more so and not be put down necessarily.
Yeah.
Honey Pie, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, pit bulls used to be considered family dogs, nanny dogs for children because they are so gentle and so patient.
Yep.
It is the owner always that is the problem. And unfortunately, they are tough-looking dogs and they've gotten some very bad owners and hence a very bad reputation. That is my feeling about pit bulls. I think they are probably just as lovely as every other dog breed out there. It's the owners.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, obviously, because there's a societal expectation, and there are people that train or even breed towards that. Didn't I read somewhere that pit bulls do have a genetically higher disposition to be anti-other dogs? Not people, because that has to be trained into them. But they do have, and they are on a base level slightly more antagonistic. Potentially, they have a higher tendency towards antagonism towards other dogs because they were literally, over success. Like I said, they were one thing, but they've been bred to fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. That might be apocryphal.
I don't know if that's true. I've never read that, but.
But even still, it's not the dog's responsibility. The dog is an animal responding to natural urges. It's always on the owner, and I think it's hugely unfair that the dog gets punished for the owner's shortcomings.
Yep.
And
the likelihood is, you have to put that one down because the owner failed it, and then the owner just goes out and gets another one and fails it again.
Yep.
Because that's what they're looking for in a dog. And, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of suffering that happens with that.
Yes. So, there you go, Gerard.
Thanks for bringing it down.
Yes.
Man.
I'm going to have to sing another song pretty soon. All right. But Gerard is back. And Jen, if you did... why didn't this make it into the game section? This should have been in the game section. Sorry, Gerard. I misclassified this, so we're going to have a game... Here's another game question for you, Honey Pie. Yep. If you did a revisited top 10, which you're not going to do...
Yeah.
But if you did... And this is just gut feeling. Yeah. Do you immediately get a sense that any of these would be a shoo-in? Would Gloomhaven be a shoo-in for your top 10? Just your gut response.
Yes.
Would Shadowrun Crossfire?
Yes.
Really?
It's so easy because I can just say yes because they're all great games and I don't even have a top 10.
Right, but you can say I don't know. Or you can say no, or you can say I don't know. Gloomhaven was a genuine yes.
Yeah.
Stop looking at the list. Stop it.
Well, I have to look at the list because...
I'm going to read you the list so you'll stop...
All right.
All right. Have you looked away? Okay. I'm bringing the list back up now. So, do you think there's a chance that Gloomhaven would make your real top 10? If you really stopped and thought about it for a day and all that. Okay.
I think so.
Shadowrun Crossfire.
Well, I know you love it.
But it's not my top 10, it's yours.
Is it in your top 10?
Yes, it's my number 2.
Ah!
So, but again, it's your top 10.
Hey, if it's
do you remember it?
Yes, I do. I had the tusks.
Oh, yes, right. Yes, you're right. Yeah, you played a lady troll, half troll with tusks, yes. Yep. I mean, it's okay for you to say no, Honey Pie.
Well, I know. It's been so long since we played it, but I remember we had a good time when we were playing it.
Right, but you can't remember it now, so you can't say. You do remember Gloomhaven, and you're speaking knowledgeably about Gloomhaven, that you can say, I remember it, I know what I'm saying here when I say yes, it might make my top 10.
Yes.
Do you remember anything other than your tusk lady in Shadowrun Crossfire?
Well, I know it was Legacy, so we kept building on our characters.
Yes.
And...
See, I don't think you can answer that one. I don't think it's... so, alrighty. Marvel Champions.
I know you love it, but I don't particularly... No.
No? Alright. Maracaibo.
There is way the heck too much minutia involved in that.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
But I do all that for you.
I know, but I still don't like it.
So you're saying you don't like the game at all?
No, I'm just saying it's definitely not top 10 for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But you did just say, I don't like it. So you're saying I should just go back to playing that full-time solo now?
If you want to, you can.
Wow. Gerald, you have really dug deep here. So you don't like it at all? The first time we played it, you directly said afterwards, if we didn't have Rahdo run through, you could go deep on this game.
Oh.
That is literally the first time you ever played it. You said that. And every time we played it since then, you've said, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I have you on tape saying it. The last time we did
fake news!
So, but you are saying you don't believe that?
I don't know. It's just so much frickin' minutia. It just, every time, you have to really get your head into it.
Yes. And that's exactly true for Gloomhaven as well.
I know.
Gloomhaven is heavier and more complex than Marvel Champions by far.
I know, but I like it better.
Right.
I like it better.
I know, and that's fine.
I'm just gonna say that.
And I'm fine. I'm totally fine with that. I like it better too. But you just said I don't like Marvel Champions, and you are hemming and hawing and implying that you actively dislike the game, and that's completely at odds with your actual play of the game. So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. Because another expansion just came. I want to play it. And it's one that really works well with 2 players. And I am thinking now, I guess I'll just have to play it by myself. Because you're saying you actively dislike the game.
I'll play it with you.
But you actively dislike it.
I don't actively dislike it.
Then you're saying, when I said I don't like it, that you misspoke.
Do you guys hear this? I get grilled on stuff like this all the time. I'm not very good at ranking things.
You're not having to rank it. You're just having to say whether you like it or not.
No, I do. I did like it. I did.
I don't know if I can trust her, folks. What do you think? Write in. You've heard the evidence. Write in. Maracaibo.
Which one is that?
That is this one. It has to be right here. This is the one with the pirates, and we're going fast around the Caribbean. You land in the different ports. You have the objectives. There's a story driving the whole thing.
Yeah. That was a good one. I don't know that it's top 10.
All right.
It was very nice. I liked it.
Okay. Jump Drive. I can say for her no on that one right off the bat. I'm not going to dig it up. Tapestry. We just played it a little while ago. I was the aliens. You were the achievers or something like that. This, fortunately, it happens to be right here. This is the civilization game.
Oh, yeah.
Where you move on the 4 tracks. There's a science one where you roll dice. There's
Put your stuff on the thing.
Yep.
Brr.
That's not the question. The question is Tapestry. Does it have a chance of making your top 10?
No, I don't think so.
A Feast for Odin. That is the Uwe Rosenberg game where it's a worker placement game and we're Viking communities, and a big part of it, your main board has a Tetris thing and you're getting like all the different big Tetris pieces and laying them down while doing Agricola-style worker placement stuff. I
feel like it's very familiar, but I'm not picturing it.
Then that's a no, if you can't remember it.
But I think I liked it.
You liked Maracaibo too, and Maracaibo was a no.
Okay.
Pret-a-Porter, which is the business simulation about the fashion industry.
Yeah, I liked it, but not top 10.
All right, there you go. There is one of your 10. One has the chance to make it. And what, Hi-Fi?
You want to pause? I'll go see what Daisy's about.
Oh, okay. I think she just stopped, though. Yep, she stopped. Okay, we're moving right along. All right, she's starting again, so we will pause because I did not understand Jen's secret little signal to indicate we should pause. So now you all know we've paused. And that was the end of that pause. You couldn't even tell, could you? If only I had remembered the secret signal that Jen and I had come up with, which I promptly forgot.
Yep.
Oh, well. Jen remembered, though. That's the important thing. So, Jack is back. And he has a whole bunch of game-related questions, and I am really failing this month.
Oh, dear.
Getting game stuff and the personal stuff.
Normally, we do the personal stuff first, then you go back and do all the gamey stuff.
And I would have caught this, and I would have skipped it. But this is one of the rare times where I actually did the game stuff first, so it's all messed up. So apologies to any gamer folks out there who can't be bothered to
listen
to our personal stuff.
So they're not hearing your apology.
Yes. Well, I'm just sending it out there in the ether. I apologize to everybody. Whoever it was that the worst thing I ever did to, I am very sorry.
That would be this worst thing right there.
Right. So, it's a question about Plunderous. You saw my run through and the final thoughts. Looks great, but you didn't hear I mention if Jen had played it. Has Jen played it? If so, what are her thoughts? Jen has not played it. Jen has no thoughts at this point. If not, will she play it?
Jen is completely thoughtless.
And does it sound like a game she'd be interested in? Finally, is this going to be a keeper in your collection? One of the reasons Jen hasn't played it is because I got the prototype literally the day before I filmed it. And I filmed it the day before it launched, or maybe 2 days before it launched. It came in very, very late because it got hung up. The postal distribution center it went through got shut down because of a COVID outbreak in it. And so everything got held up for like a week. You were out. The postmaster general of our little town actually called me personally to apologize.
Wow.
I'm like, what? How is this? What? Okay.
Are you saying that we had a COVID outbreak in our post office?
No. It was sent from, I think it was Colorado. There was a Colorado distribution center that it got into, and it got stuck there for like over a week because the whole thing got shut down because there was a COVID outbreak
Wow.
it was something like that.
Okay.
So it got way late, and of course now I've already filmed it, so we got to move on to the next thing. I do want to.
I like the name of it.
And she'll love the art, and I think she will really love the Euro-y elements. I think the puzzly nature of it I think will work really great. And I think she would really like it. Her problems will be two. One is it's a very long game.
You should share that thing that we decided
What's that? I have no idea what you're talking
about how our lives have changed, and so our gaming preferences have also changed.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, we can segue into that from this. That had to do with Dungeon Pets, which somebody mentioned earlier. I thought you were going to mention it off of when that other person asked about Dungeon Pets. I think it might have been Gerald, actually, or Gerard. Or Jack, or somebody. Anyway, so it's a very long game, and we'll get to that in a second because Jen has something to say about that. And also, it features a huge amount of negotiation, and I love negotiation.
And I suck at negotiation.
And Jen, Jen. Not that I particularly have any desire to do it in real life. I hate,
you
bartering.
hate it in real life.
Yeah, but I love doing it in game situations. I just adore it. It's one of my favorite things to do. And of course, it never works in a two-player game, but this game is designed for it to work well at two-player because there are just so many things in this game that you need to do that you cannot do without direct assistance from your opponents. And the thing is, your opponents are in the exact same situation. They cannot do core central things without the help of their opponents. So there is always something to negotiate for, and it's really sharp. But Jen, as a general rule, it's because I can be really very aggressive. I don't mean mean, but I'm just like, or enthusiastic. I'm perhaps a bit too over-enthusiastic in the rare times when we get to negotiate. And Jen's like, can we just
How about if we just agree this with that and we're fine?
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get the extra angle. And so that's kind of a problem for her. And so I suspect if I dial that back, I think actually there's an amendment where you can turn negotiation off completely. I forget.
So how could it be if you have to negotiate?
I'm not sure. I could be, like I said, I think there is. I could be wrong about that though. But I mean, yeah, and it's why the reason somebody would pass that law, if that's a law in the game, is because, well, you know what? I've already got everything I need. And now I'm going to shut down negotiation so the other people can't get what they need, kind of a thing. That's why you would pass that law in the game. That's all a lot of the laws are because, well, you have a mech. Well, I think it's time to vote mechs being banned from the world.
Oh.
Just right now. And then, the player's like, but my mech, I just got it. It was very expensive. And then, they have to negotiate with somebody. Look, I promise I'll never attack you if you vote with me so that the mechs can stay and play. I'll only attack them. So there's negotiating is everything in this game. And so we haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but I will be playing it with her when the, the cooperative expansion components show up, which should be sent within a couple of weeks or something. Although it remains to be seen because I'm sure you've noticed that the Kickstarter is not really catching fire. So it may get canceled and postponed and come back with different pricing structures, and is so often the case. And if that's the case, it means, hey, we have more time to continue to do more work. I mean, I think we've pretty much cracked the nut on the co-op. The design is done. The thing that's not done is balancing and tweaking. some of the effects on events and stuff like that. But so it just gives us more time to get it locked in. But anyway, I was definitely planning on playing it with Jen because I know she'll love the stuff that gets accentuated in the co-op game. But I mean, if you want to try it, I know this game better than any game I've played in years now. I've played it so much and spent so much time with him working on it, on the design of it.
That's so nice.
So, but you would have to be ready to negotiate when you want a letter of transit to my island so you can go exploring because you need to find something and complete your tribute. And it's like, well, I'm not going to give you this for nothing. You got to give me something, kind of a thing.
Wink, wink.
Alrighty, so, and it would be a keeper in the collection. I don't tend to keep stuff if Jen doesn't enjoy it, and I really should give it a chance. The thing is, I mean, there have been a few long games that Jen will put up with. Gloomhaven is one of them. She really liked Forge War as well. And I think Plunderous is in that same wheelhouse of really big, long, heavy, deep, complex games that are so compelling and just compulsive, and they just suck you in and the time just disappears, that if she could get into the negotiation, I think she'd dig it. Alrighty. Although, to be fair, Plunderous is definitely at its best if there's at least one player at the table who is ready to cause some mischief and and be the aggressive, hey, I'm building mechs, I'm going to start attacking your ports and stuff like that. The game still works if everybody's super Care Bear, but it loses a little bit of its zest. And I have definitely enjoyed it the most when I'm playing with others who do really, or I'm the Care Bear, amongst the sharks. Right. Okay. So anyway, negotiation. Assuming you and Jen did play it, which we didn't, how much do you guys negotiate in your plays, and did Jen like that? Well, what do you know? That's what I was just talking about. Since negotiation is a tricky thing for two players, I've never actually heard either of you talk about how much, whether you like negotiation in games before this. I've just heard Rahdo's thoughts on Plunderous video, but now I want to know Jen's. Do you generally like negotiation in games? How does negotiation interact with your drive towards efficiency? Do you find it helps with your efficiency puzzling, or does it get in the way? So that's 100% to you, Honey Pie.
God.
Your thoughts about negotiation. Am I wrong to say that as a general rule you do not like negotiation in games?
You are not wrong.
Why is that?
Because I just kind of want to play my game and get on with it. Mm-hmm. And I want you to play your game.
But there's no better sense of efficiency of negotiating with somebody and getting 2 for 1 when you should have gotten 1 for 1. That's super efficient.
No.
The game will never negotiate with you so that you can go into beyond peak efficiency.
But I have to give up something else in order to get 2 for 1. That's the whole negotiation thing.
Yeah.
I like knowing the rules and playing by the rules. Mm-hmm. I guess that's how I feel.
You like auctions. Auctions are a form of negotiation.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But you're very kind to me in auctions.
That is true too. All right. So his question of does it help your efficiency puzzling or does it get in the way? It gets in the way.
Gets in the way.
Alrighty. Game designer flashbacks. And these were all should have gone in the game section. Sorry, everybody who isn't here. You mentioned you put in over 200 hours of design work on Plunderous, the cooperative expansion, Reveille. Did either of you get flashbacks to Rahdo's time as a video game designer? Rahdo, any burnout, creative adrenaline, lack of project control, frustration, etc.? Jen, did you feel the game designer widow syndrome?
On Plunderous?
Oh, well, I mean, because basically...
Is this Andrew's game?
Yeah, and we're talking about Andrew's game.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Jen knows is, basically, for the last... And it's not exactly 9 months, and it's not exactly 200 hours. It's not like I've been tracking it, but it's been about 9 months. About a year ago, Andrew contacted me and said, hey, I'm putting Plunderous on the shelf for a little while, because I want to do something else. And he started working on a game called Adventure Inc. And he said, I'm going to make this Gloomhaven the Roll and Write. And I'm going to design this game specifically to make it your #1 highest rated game of all time.
Wow.
And that is my design goal. And so you need to start telling me everything you love about every game so that I can pick and choose and make the game that was literally custom scientifically designed to tickle our gray matter in the strongest way possible. And so I started doing that, and over time that morphed into, when he started working on Plunderous again, giving him feedback on Plunderous. And that morphed into, well, I'm doing this co-op thing, let's really focus on that. And then, at some point, I was basically, on average, probably taking on an average week, 2 or 3 Skype calls with him, which on average run for about 2 hours. Sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes more calls, sometimes less calls. So that's where the 200 hours over the last 9 months come from. It's a very rough number, but I think it captures the feel of how much time I've put into this. And it's every one of these calls has been, I got another question for you. I got this thing and I've got this problem. How would you resolve that? What games have you liked? What games have you not liked? What's your thought? And when we end up and during this time, the co-op expansion for Plunderous has pretty much been scrapped and started over about 5 times.
Oh my gosh.
5 completely different approaches, and I've loved all of them. And but I've understood why Andy would eventually say, yeah, but if we tried this one, because Andy is a perfectionist and he won't stop until it's perfect. So he just wants to try everything, and we've been trying everything. To answer your question, that has been a bit frustrating for me because I am definitely not that designer. I am the designer saying, okay, this is it, this is the plan, we will keep going. We will not veer. If we run into a problem, we won't throw it away, we will fix the problem and move on. That is a hallmark of my approach to designing video games for almost 2 decades. It's why I was able to finish games on time and on budget. And it's really completely antithetical to a lot of designers I know out there. So it's been kind of weird for me because I'm like, come on, dude, that was really good. And I know you're frustrated about these things. Let's just fix those things. Like, well, let's just try something else. Because he doesn't mind just, okay, let's toss that one, or we'll take ideas from that and we'll mix it with other stuff. And honestly, I do think that's probably more of the traditional design approach. You iterate, you throw away, you don't get too precious about your babies, you get the best of everything. But I like to see things through. I like to, no, let's just get this one done. And let's pick a path and let's stick it to the end. So that's been a bit frustrating for me. But at the end of the day, I'm at best a co-designer, and I'm really just a collaborator. So it's him. He still does the lion's share of the work. So, and then I end up doing another 2-hour phone call with him on a Thursday afternoon. And so to Jen, the main thing that has affected there is whenever I have a Plunderous call with Andrew, I have to go into another room. Because I used to say in the living room, and Jen said, okay, you're being too boisterous and loud and obnoxious, you need to leave. But not that you said that, but Jen made it very clear she did not want to be around that. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Yes, of course I do.
And as I'm leaving, she will silently mouth, thank you for leaving.
Or I leave. One of us leaves.
Yeah.
One of us leaves.
So why is that? Why do you not want to be around the creative process?
Because I'm doing my own stuff, and I'm thinking my own things, and having your bombardment does not help whatever I'm thinking about.
Okay.
That's
all right.
why.
There you go.
And you're loud.
So, are you getting the widow syndrome was the question?
Nah.
No. Yeah, it's nowhere near enough. I mean, I'm still in the house. Which is another good segue. Did you want to talk about the Dungeon Pets thing? I mean, somebody asked about Dungeon Pets before. I thought we'd talk about it then, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And it's not like anybody's asked. We could just pass, and then somebody next month will say, well, what about the Dungeon Pets thing? What are you talking about?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, because we are at 3 hours now. And if somebody wants, they can ask, because we had a major breakthrough in the month of September, basically. A huge, really deep, life-altering series of observations as a result of trying to play Dungeon Pets. So there's a whole story there, but we're both tired. Alrighty. Moving right along. Are we moving right along? Yes, we are. Jack is back for more.
Oh my goodness.
He has some, we talked about Reference Man.
About what?
Remember I had said something about Reference Man. He mistook it. And I said, no, when I said Reference Man, I was talking about literal Reference Man.
Yeah, yep.
And so he's looked into it a bit and found the Wikipedia page, did some stuff, and apparently he only found stuff about radiation safety. There is literally a book. I believe the book is called Reference Man. You don't have to. We have heard 2 different podcasts. One of them on Cracked, one of them on Andrew Yang's podcast. Listen to either of them. It goes well beyond radiation therapy. But anyway, by chance, do you remember the book you read? Oh, well, there you go. Okay, fair enough. Let's see if I can find it.
He's just sitting here looking at me, talking to me about it, and then he finished reading the question.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe I should read the question before inadvertently answering the question.
Yeah.
Reference Man. I'm just doing a Google search for Reference Man, Andrew Yang podcast, and let's see if that will bring up the particular episode. No, it brings up a lot of stuff about,
reference to.
All right, book. Maybe it wasn't called Reference Man. I shouldn't. Dang it.
Average. It might have been average man.
No, but I remember the term is reference man. All right. No, okay, not finding it that way. We're just doing a search for, quote, reference man book. Just that. It was from a female. Yes, the name of the book.
Data
The name of the book is Invisible Women by Caroline Crotto Perez. Exposing data bias in a world designed for men. And neither Jen nor I have read it.
No.
But we've both heard two, and there's experts. I mean, having do a search for this, you'll find lots of articles about it, and it's incredibly eye-opening. If you don't want to read the book itself, although it's a pretty short book, it's 422 pages, 86 of which you can preview on Amazon. It looks like. Then definitely check out any of the podcasts where she appears, because it's mind-boggling. Just everything you take for granted in this world, being a reference man, and and what it means for everybody else. Anyway, so do you remember? Right. So yeah, there it is. I found it. Sorry. Why didn't she call her book Reference Man? She called it Invisible Woman. Oh well. Even if these, all right, so reference man is 5'6", nowhere close to average, and all right, so what you did dig up, even though those measurements were used as a reference for widespread industrial use, wouldn't your argument that the world was created for you applies more to Jen or any other woman or man that's closer to 5'6"? All right. Honestly, I'm sorry, Jack. At this point, I don't remember what the original question was, or the thing you're quoting that I said, no, you were taking me, and I meant this very specific thing.
He thinks I'm taller than the gender average. I'm not.
Jen is 5'2".
2.5.
Yeah, 5 foot. Yeah, that's not a skimp on that half. So I'm sorry, man. At this point, this was like 3 or 4 months ago. I do not remember the original quote. I'll just say you got me, and I was inconsistent, and perhaps I misspoke. Because I don't remember the particulars. But anyway, empathy. Let's see. The Mapleview interview, I'm assuming you're talking about the gun-related one or the Black Lives Matter one, was not about Reference Man. It was an interesting tangent, or I guess I probably mentioned Reference Man in that as well. Maybe, that's what it was. It was having to do with the Black Lives Matter one. I don't remember now. But anyway, from the last podcast, how do I reconcile my comments in the Meepleville interview about my white privilege with early childhood experiences you went through in a Latino? Right. Right. Okay. Cool. So we're just okay, that's what it originally was. We're dropping Reference Man because that was like this tangent, as you say. So I mentioned that there is definitely white privilege that I have benefited from my entire life. That is undeniable. That is a hardcore fact. The fact that I was born a white male in America in 1969 has hugely benefited me. If I had been born a black male in the United States of America in 1969 with the same loving parents, but there is a very big likelihood my life would have gone in very different ways because of the systemic racism that I would face on a day-to-day basis every day of my life. So, how do I reconcile that with the fact that for 7 or 8 months, I was on the receiving end of that racism? I'm hesitant to call it racism because it was kids, and kids are just cruel and brutal and
unfiltered
and uncultured. But yeah, it was the same end result, that I, in some small way, was on the receiving end of what Black Americans have to live their entire life. I got it for a tiny little window. What that did was give me an appreciation for the fact that for 99% of my life, I have not faced that. Face those trials and tribulations. And so it gives me a better appreciation for all the things, all the doors that were held open for me that I didn't even know existed. Because my name was not Deshaun. Go ahead and read, what is it, Freakonomics? Was it Tipping Point? It was one of the Malcolm Gladwell books that has this big article about implicit racism in naming. How, people with black-sounding names implicitly get turned down for job interviews repeatedly over and over and over again, solely based on their name, not their character, not their resume. If my parents had given me a name like that, I would have had a tougher road to hoe in my life than I did because I was a white dude named Richard. And I don't have to reconcile. I mean, I'm not quite sure where you see an inconsistency. That because I personally experienced the same result in a tiny microcosm doesn't invalidate. In fact, it just reinforces the fact that these are fundamental human drives that exist in the world and affect people's lives. It totally affected me for a tiny window. Yeah, it was Freakonomics, the book Freakonomics, which is a great book in general.
Yep.
It's absolutely phenomenal. Recommended reading. So I don't have a hard time reconciling that because all that's doing is exposing and revealing that these are fundamental human drives. There are scientific studies that prove babies are literally born racist. Or, because babies will, in absence of any other, controlling for all other conditions, will tend towards I think it was a stranger that is their same skin color. It's baked into us. It's something we all have to strive to get past. It's not that white people have a monopoly on racism. Anybody's capable of being racist. Anybody's capable of trying to rise above it. And I'm afraid for people who say white privilege doesn't exist, they are burying their heads in the sands and trying to ignore it rather than rise above it. And they are probably, without realizing it, in some small ways, perpetuating it, even if for no other reason, because they are refusing to acknowledge its existence. And believe me, ever since I started wearing BLM shirts, I see people refusing to acknowledge that existence every day of my life. It's just ridiculous how many people come out of the woodwork, all the alt-righters. So anyway, though, moving on to being a wonderful person follow-up. Because somebody asked, and then somebody asked you, how are we such wonderful people? I think both of us are a bit uncomfortable with that, quite frankly.
Yeah.
We're very flattered for whoever was to say it, but you see. How do I balance thinking critically with empathy? Are there examples where my head wins over my heart? One I've already brought up is frugality with beggars and servers, because I mentioned that I used to be much more outgoing with that, and now I don't necessarily have that same gut instinctual response because we're cheap and we're putting ourselves first in that regard. So you are basically proposing a pendulum, a teeter-totter. On one side is empathy for others, and on other side is critical thinking. I don't know that I agree that those are opposite ends of a spectrum. That empathy means absence of critical thinking. That critical thinking means absence of empathy. I think the reality of our species, our success compared to all the other hominids and all the insects and everything else, the reason we made it to the top is because we do have it's a bunch of things. It's communication, it's right place at the right time. But our relatively unique ability towards teamwork, towards empathy. Empathy is a biological, or is an evolutionary advantage that we developed as a species. That we recognize that someone in our village suffering ultimately affects us and our ability to thrive. And therefore, it is in our best interest to ensure that everyone in our village is thriving, because that means we thrive and our offspring thrive. That is a key that most other animals fail to get. Really, about the only other ones I think that regularly get that is insects. That they get it to the same level as us. And who's even more arguably successful as a species in dominating this planet than us? Insects. Because they get it. And now that's not to say, of course, wolf packs exist and whatnot, but it's not to the same degree. It's not to the same purpose towards ensuring that everybody succeeds equally. That is why we were able to rise above the rest of the animal kingdom. Unfortunately, it comes, the true teeter-totter is not critical thinking and empathy. It is empathy and tribalism. Empathy and tribalism are the opposite ends of that spectrum. And I would put to you that there was a time in our evolution as a species that tribalism was, which I think is what you're equating to critical thinking. That look, sometimes we got to put ourselves first before other people, because that's your example. Keeping the money for ourselves rather than giving it to somebody else. That's a form of tribalism. That's putting our tribe, me and Jen, above the wider tribe of humanity. And how does it help us to help that homeless man on the street who needs to eat tonight? There was certainly a time that tribalism was an important component in our evolution as a species, because it did push us in a very brutal and Darwinistic way that some failed and others thrived, and the winners wrote history and they got us to where we are today. My supposition, my argument is, as a species, we don't need tribalism anymore. Any benefit or utility that allowed us to get forward in the human race, it is lost and needless now. We don't need to succeed at the expense of others anymore, because we have succeeded. We have arrived. We can get rid of. We have weeded out the weak. Which is a kind of what tribalism is doing. And we are all strong, and we all have more than enough resources to ensure that we are all strong. So we do not need tribalism. We need 100% empathy, zero tribalism. Where once upon a time there was a ratio that was, elemental to our success. So I'm not saying it's great that I now put Jen's and my needs above the needs of another person. You would say, well, that means you're being smart and critically thinking. I'm saying Jen and I have enough money that we can take care of both. And that's in everyone's best interest. The recipient's interest, in our interest, in society's interest. Which, of course, is why I'm for universal basic income as a general rule, because we made it to the mountaintop, and it's ridiculous that we're still behaving like we're hard scrabble, barely one step ahead of all getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers. That's not the situation anymore. We can afford to lift everyone up.
Yes.
You have anything to say about all that, Honey Pie?
No, I agree.
All right. Then now on to something completely different from Jack. Taxes. How does tax collection work in Malta when we were self-employed? Why did we not feel it as much as we do in the States? And I'd have to... Okay, I do remember some of this, and Jen just heaves a sigh of relief because apparently she doesn't want to even think about it. When we first got to Malta, I went to work at for a Maltese, an incredibly high-paying job as a creative director of the company that I got there. I worked at that company for 9 or 10 months. And in that time, I paid taxes to the Maltese government.
Whatever
rate it was, but I was making so much money, and
in a low cost
in an incredibly low cost country, I was making such an insane amount of money that in 9 or 10 months we made 5 years worth of living expenses.
Yep.
Let's say roughly, something like that. And the reason we no longer paid taxes after I left that job and we retired is because I stopped working, and our entire time in Malta was spent living off all the savings, because I made a lot of money and we spent very little of it. And we could have continued to do that. And eventually that nest egg would have gone away, and we would have had to bring money from elsewhere. But by then the thinking was, hey, we've hit 60 or 65. If we can just make it to that, then we've got our 401ks and our pensions from England and all of that. So that's why we were not paying any taxes in Malta, other than sales tax, really. Because we literally had no income. Now, Jen was making income, but you were not selling necessarily within Malta. You were selling...
Mostly selling to Europeans.
Yeah, and
some Americans.
Yeah, and most of the money Jen was making was at Essen Spiel, where she was doing a very brisk cash trade, and was simply not reporting it. I think we can say that now. I don't think Malta's going to track us down at this point. Is that... Yeah.
But I always had a nice show at Essen.
Yes. You had a great show at Essen. That was a sizable portion of your yearly proceeds were off of that one show, being there for 4 days and selling a lot of glass to people with a lot of cash in hand. And so, yeah, we just didn't pay very much in the way of taxes in Malta. That's not true. We paid a lot of taxes for the first 9 months we were there. And then we skated for 5 years after that.
Yep.
And during that time, we were still making money elsewhere. But, since we were in Malta, I think there was some, like, higgledy-diggledy things you were able to do.
There was...
with declaring things certain ways.
Tax agreements with either England or America. It's very complicated.
Yeah. And that's why Jen is sighing, because she would have to write a treatise on it, because it was a very complex web of stuff to negotiate.
Yeah, but we had an accountant help us.
Yeah.
So everything's above board, and it was fine and everything. But, my God, very complicated.
Yeah. But the Malta part was not, because we simply...
We paid it.
We basically preloaded all of our taxes for 5 years in the space of 9 months.
And you paid at the highest tax rate for Malta because you were earning so much.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that he just, contributed at 12% or whatever, like normal Maltese people did.
I forget. Malta has the relatively standard, whatever it is, sliding. What's the term for the sliding scale?
Sliding scale.
Yeah, I don't think that's what it's called, but they had that fairly standard tax scheme.
Yeah. So you pay X amount up to this amount, and then if you earn more than that, you paid a different percentage on that amount. And then
and the reality is, I'm sure it was probably a pretty high. Seeing as how it was a European country, I imagine it was much higher than we're paying now in the U.S. probably. But we mentioned this in the last episode. It was invisible. It was just our paycheck. We didn't think about it. Just the same for the majority of the time. It's not until we've come back and realize, Rahdo Runs Through doesn't do withholdings.
Yeah.
And so we have to pay the taxes all at once, and it's gobsmacking when you see it happen. And I'm not saying that means we shouldn't pay, because I do appreciate having roads and fire departments and public libraries and Social Security and all the rest of it.
And you don't get a choice unless you're apparently Donald Trump, wherein you pay $750 for your billions of whatever.
Indeed, or his supposed billions. Seeing as how. But anyway.
Well, we paid a lot more than $750 last year.
Yeah. So that's a little bit more depth into why we did or didn't feel the crunch in Malta. And continuing, seeing as you rightly disagree with the silliness. All right. Recently, news illustrates that many people, at least in the media, think that using laws and regulations on the books to lower your tax bill is a bad thing. Which is to say, I assume you mean going for loopholes and whatnot. So, seeing as how you disagree with this silliness and accept it's okay to use legal methods to reduce your taxes. Oh, okay. Why do you think the media and anyone else demonizes legally lowering your tax bill? I think what they're demonizing is the fact that they can do it. Demonizing the fact that Donald Trump is able to claims $70,000 in hair care. And I would agree with you. You're right that it's not Donald Trump's fault specifically that he was able to claim, get $70,000 tax free in hair care
to spend on his hair.
Spend on his hair. That's absurd. Not that he did it, but that he can do it. And but I would still apply the absurdity to him, because his party is the party that allows for it, that institutes and vigorously defends all of those tax loopholes that the mega rich then turn around to use to avoid paying taxes and giving back and being empathetic instead of tribal. That is what is being skewered by the media, that it's wrong that this is even doable in the first place, that it's absurd. And what do you know? It always seems to happen with the super hyper rich that do it.
Except, there's Warren Buffett and Bill Gates who have pledged to give their fortunes away. Mm-hmm. So it's not all rich people are bad.
Although that's the thing. That's fine, and that's laudable, and that's noteworthy. But that is them also having a certain level of hubris that I know how better to help society with this money than the government. Now, don't get me wrong. Both Bill Gates and Warren Buffett also advocate strongly for taxing the heck out of the rich. And they are constantly on the warpath about, you should be taxing me. It shouldn't be, just based on, the largesse of rich people,
Right.
that they get to decide who is a winner and who is a loser. We elect public officials for that. And but the attitude in America of, no, there shouldn't be government charity. You have churches. Churches should choose. That's absurd and ridiculous because we don't elect the church to do that. It's objectively wrong. And that is, when you say the media is lambasting millionaires, the media is using an easy to understand target to draw attention to the fact that the fundamental system is broken.
There you go.
Yeah.
Broken.
Yep.
Flat
And oh my gosh, that was it. That was a crazy one to end on. And honey, nobody's asking for your words of wisdom.
Then they can have.
They get no words of wisdom. We end on a particularly heavily charged series of questions.
Actually, I did look up a Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote because I thought that would be
I
appropriate.
think you should give one. Yes.
Okay. She says.
And Henrik, wherever you are, you gotta stay on that, buddy. We'll give you this one
for free. She says, don't be distracted by emotions like anger, envy, or resentment. These just zap energy and waste time.
Cool.
So.
All right. Good one. And we are out of here, folks. As always, questions at Rahdo.com. And if you are including dog pictures, please give your authorization for me to share them with people. Just cause. And otherwise, that's it. So we'll see you again in a month or so. And what time is it? It is now
1:23.
Almost 1:30. I think it might be getting too late to play that game that I have set up.
We haven't had breakfast yet, so
Yes, I
maybe
know.
I'll go cook some food.
Maybe we'll eat now. All right, everybody. Talk to you later. Have a nice day. Thanks for listening. So long. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.